Bell bottoms. Bell bottoms. Bell bottom. Hey, it's the Bennington Show on a Monday. I'm Ron Bennington. There's Gail Bennington.
Yo.
And I am Ron Bennington. Bell bottoms. Name of that tune. Baby Driver?
That's Baby Driver. That's like the first big driving sequence. The John Spencer Blues explosion.
That sounds so great. And I'm not saying I'm a fashionista, but why haven't bell bottoms come back? You know what I mean? They're just fucking perfect pants.
Well, if you're a hippier lady, a lady with big hips,
Yeah.
it balances you out. You're like, look, this lower part of the pant, just as big as the top.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a little like an orange on a toothpick.
It's the Bennington Show. A lot going on today. Matter of fact, Kelly Lynch is stopping by a little later on today. Boy, Drugstore Cowboy, by the way, I caught it not too long ago. It's seriously one of the best movies ever made.
It is. It's a fantastic movie.
And you know what? It's ripped out of today's fucking headlines, ladies and gentlemen. Damani in Montreal. What's happening, buddy?
Hey guys, how's it going?
What do you say?
Pretty good. I just calling in to thank you guys for the opportunity with Comedy 101 last week. I was one of the contestants that went up, the first guy.
Well, first of all, here's the problem with you. You were way too good to start this thing off. I need somebody shitty in that first role. And you're actually a very funny guy.
I thought you were just saying that to
No.
say it last. Okay.
No,
Fair
it was
enough.
actually I was very annoyed with my producers because that's not the way to start the show. And people are like, oh, this is going to be a funny show.
Oh,
No,
this is good.
no, it doesn't work that way.
A lot of potential.
But you
I was
did.
just happy to go up before the judges got warmed up.
Yes. By the way, I just found this out over the weekend. There is a UK site called, let me think of it, I believe it's Chortle,
Chortle?
that gave a review to the show. Somebody,
Is that right?
yeah, and just to let you know that they that we didn't know about them or they didn't know about us is that they were saying Tim Norton was very funny.
Oh, Timmy. Timmy.
I'm somewhere confused between Tim Hortons and the funny comedian Jim Norton. But I thought that was cool.
I'm glad they got a chortle from it.
Well, dude, you ever come down to New York City?
Yeah, that's where the first couple of times I went up was. But I've moved around quite a bit, and now I've landed in Montreal, so I'm just doing it here a bit.
Well, it's a
But
great.
I've tried open mics on there.
It's a great town that you live in. It's really a lot of fun. But if you ever get down to New York, we'd love to have you in. And I'm sorry you messed this up by being funny. It's not your fault. It's ours. But I appreciate it, buddy.
I appreciate it.
Peace.
Can I get a quick plug since Ron Bennington thinks I'm funny?
Yes.
If anyone takes Ron's advice, come down to the Montreal Comedy Works this week. I'll be doing 5 minutes. So things are going pretty well for me down here.
Very, very good, my friend. Take care of yourself. That's the Montreal Comedy Works. Montreal Comedy Works. That's where comedy works.
Some places it doesn't work, but there it does.
Mm-hmm. I know plenty of places it doesn't work. Most of the places, it just don't work. It don't work at all. Bell bottoms. It's like in my head now. So anyway, that was a lot of fun. We're going to announce a street jokes that we're going to be doing soon. But with a twist, ladies and gentlemen. It's not your grandfather's street works anymore. We move quickly on this. A lot going on today, but we'll start to show off with a Sia. An old buddy of mine, Darren Dalton, passed away last night. Anybody who is a baseball fan knows that Dutch truly one of the great catchers, not just of his generation, but of all time, and an unbelievable team leader. But I knew and got to meet him through his first wife, Lynn Austin, many, many years ago. And we became buddies. And 1993 was one of the fun years of my life. And, right from spring training all the way up until, and this has never happened before, they canceled the last game of the season. The series is tied 3-3, and Toronto says we don't want to play anymore. We're not playing Game 7. It's never happened before or since. But really fantastic guy, fantastic player, and he's been dealing with this brain cancer stuff for the last few years, and I was under the impression that he had a beat, and then I talked to some people last night when I heard the news, and they said that the last couple months have been struggling, and he was very private about it. He didn't want to do this in public and have people talking, and I totally get that 100%. But Lynn Austin was she was a playmate, and the very first Hooters girl, and she was on every billboard that you can imagine. And Dutch was this really good-looking athlete, and they were like the king and the queen of the prom. And like I remember when I was at their wedding, we were kind of laughing. They were like, "This is like you don't normally see people who
right.
who look like the two of them."
Yeah,
it was so funny, and but they were just it was like literally, a kind of a golden time for the two of them because they were young, they had money, they had looks, they had everything, and that team, that 93 team, was just so fun and so crazy, and there's no way they should have been winning like they were, so that made it even more exciting. But I remember, I'll just throw out a couple baseball memories. So my dad, of course, is a Phillies fan, and I had all the tickets to this thing, and now he's, meeting players and stuff because we know Dutch, and, we're going to Hooters after the game and hanging out. It was just a really fun time. But I was in Philly, and Dutch was playing home games, and Lynn was there. And Lynn calls me up and says, "Hey, do you want to sit with us? I got 2 tickets. You want to bring your dad to the game?" And I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool." So we go there, and it's me and my dad and the wives. That's who's all sitting kind of a little bit on the third baseline. So you can see into the dugout, and about, 6 or 7 rows up is where all the wives were sitting, right? So we're just sitting with these gorgeous players' wives. This is why it's so smart, those people that start those stupid TV shows like the basketball wives and the soccer wives and all that, because these women are gorgeous. But the paranoia that was running, because first of all, they want to make eye contact with their guy, and you just see their guy like, "Hi," you know what I mean? Like doing like that. And I'm like, I watch games all the time. Why do I never see this? And then also they're watching their guy to see where he's looking in the stands. So they're looking for the eye line to see if there's some fucking hot Annie
right.
sitting in the left field. Like, they don't fucking stop looking where their man is looking. And me and my dad were like, "Oh shit, this is a little tenser." And they're talking shit about their, he gets fucked now, And I'm going to tell you the truth. Lynn wasn't one of them. Lynn was just chill. Yeah. But some of the other wives were very, I guess it's an edgy thing when you're a wife. And then the other really great memory I have is, I got tickets to the Atlanta game, the National League playoff, and I got it from the people at Coca-Cola. So fly my dad, me and him go to Atlanta to see this game, and we're 5 rows back, and pre-game there, Dutch is walking across the infield, and he's just like so edgy. This is the playoffs, the National League playoffs. And I just yelled "Bubba," which some of his friends call him, but you never heard it on TV. And he looks up and he sees me, and I just see this just pure determination / anger in his face. Like, it wasn't like he was going to be in a baseball game. It was like he's going to be in a fight. And he just goes, yeah. And I yell, yeah, back at him. Like, I'm suddenly caught up. I'm caught up. And he takes his batting gloves and he just fires them at me as hard as he can. And I catch him. And he's like, yeah. And he's going down. I'm like, yeah. And first of all, I'm so happy I caught him because, I mean, he just smoked them at me. You know, and if they would have bounced off my hands, it would have been the most embarrassing thing, you know. And I just turned around and handed it to my dad like it's a regular thing. He still has the gloves. I talked to him today. And, but it was just one of those things, like all those things that happen where you're like, oh yeah, you just see this from a distance all the time. But these guys are so, I mean, to have to do that 162 games a year and then the playoffs, you know, you can't even imagine what it's like to run that marathon. And then they go, okay, now we're going to decide in a couple of sprints whether or not you're the champion. But it was like a glorious summer. It was just a phenomenal summer to see those guys like that. And you remember when he was traded in '97 at the end of his career, and he retired pretty young because he was a catcher and his knees were just shot. I think he was in his mid-30s. But we got to watch him win a championship in Miami, and that was so much fun. And I think he started the last game of that and batted cleanup. And he was just, it was like a real, like just old school from being at that time. He was more like a 1940s guy than he was a 1990s guy. He was a real clubhouse leader and had this real respect for the game. And I always thought that, you know, coaching was going to be the way that you go because he was so smart about baseball. But, you know, he ended up broadcasting and writing crazy books about metaphysics, which again, I always wonder if the brain tumor thing had something to do with that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Who knows? Who knows? It also could just be someone's spiritual beliefs. And I know a lot of people with a lot of crazy spiritual beliefs. But great guy and great ball player.
Yeah.
And beloved in Philly.
Oh, so loved. And like, I have to say, loved by everyone that I give a damn about. Like everyone in my family. My man had that experience as well, just loving that team so much. Yeah. And, you know, some of my favorite memories with my brother are like seeing that team and then getting to see him play with the Marlins, which was like an incredible time. So yeah, it's pretty heartbreaking, but yeah, I can't really even express between my dad, my grandfather, my brother, my boyfriend, my cousins, what this guy meant to my family.
Yeah, he was great. He was just great, and that was just great times. So here's the you know something that came right after it, a Philly thing. Sarcone's closed.
What?
Yeah.
Yeah. So this happens. We find this out right after this. It's starting to feel like a personal attack.
Sarcone's great hoagie place. I don't know whether the bakery is closed, but I know the deli is. But apparently the tax man and his bullshit.
Yeah. You know how he do. But yeah, it feels like a personal attack. And on the city of Philadelphia.
It is an attack on the city of Philadelphia.
So shitty.
Oh, and I forgot to tell you this, to pave it over the Rocky steps.
What?
Oh,
Why?
Yeah, they just thought we better not have any steps there. They're putting in an escalator.
No.
Maybe
they said, come and take the escalator the way Rocky did.
It didn't happen that way.
That's still up, though.
I don't know.
Yeah, why don't you get to the bottom of that?
What's happening?
Oh, there's a booth back there.
It's like something's going on with them, that's for sure. We're about to find out. Hi.
Hi, Jen.
Hi. Oh, sneaky.
Oh, yeah. Thought we were doing a show. So apparently another crazy story, Chris Stanley sending dick pics.
What?
Oh, I'm sorry, that's Eric Bolling.
Okay.
Eric Bolling from Fox News.
First one was more believable, actually.
Not send dick pics to employees.
what? Now you guys are gentlemen, and perhaps you're classy enough to never send a unsolicited dick pic. But if you were to imagine what goes through the mind of a man, you're like, okay, I like this girl. I find her physically attractive.
And we haven't been together.
I'd love for this to go somewhere. You know what would be great? If she just saw my dick, and then perhaps she would be so intrigued by
it's no
it visually.
How is this different than if you were at a party and you took your dick out? I mean, what doesn't normally... You know who admires dicks is other guys. Other guys will talk about someone's dick, but you never hear a woman going, I didn't think I liked him, so I got a good look at that cock.
I mean, the visual.
Forget it.
Like the visual.
The visual of that cock just set me afire.
I can remember the first time I ever knew of this being a thing, and we didn't even call it a dick pic because we didn't even know. It was like just when phones just started to be able to send
It happened that day.
Messages.
It happened that day.
And a friend of mine came to a party, and she was talking about another guy we know, friend of a friend, someone we thought was just a normal dude. And she's like, he took a photograph with his phone, with his camera phone, of his penis, and he sent it to my phone. And we're like, what? What do you mean? We were like floored by this. The dick pic was not even a phrase that we were aware of. We were just like, why would someone do something like, and I'm like, so you couldn't even decline it. It just sends right to your phone. Yeah, it's there. I had to see the dick. It went right to my phone. And we're like, this is sick. And this is exactly the same thing we were saying. This is like like he must be like a flasher. We couldn't figure out.
Yeah.
Like,
he didn't. I remember this happening before with when the first online communities, that there was this guy that was like, he was considered somewhat of like the puppy of the group, and treated a lot of people like they were big sisters or mommies. And then straight across the board, he sent out dick pics.
What?
And people came to me and said, could you talk to him? And I'm like, what would I possibly say?
What?
No.
Yeah.
Across the board?
Across the board to
Get
every woman we
Holy
the
shit.
fuck out of here. Get out of here.
After I broke up with my my ex-girlfriend, she
no.
said that... No.
Did you?
No, she... All right. So she would feed cats in the neighborhood. There was like a family of stray cats like a block over from her apartment. And she would feed them, and there was like a Greek family, like a Greek lady and her sister, and they had a son. So they were feeding the cats. She met the son maybe a couple of times, and she said he sent her a dick pic. just from feeding cats.
Just like you, I know you feed my cats sometime.
Yeah.
I've
these stray cats are like near their house.
But why, like, he had her number, they had exchanged numbers at some point?
I guess he had to fucking feed the fucking cats. And he sent her a fucking... After we broke up, I was like, you know that guy sent me a dick pic, right? I'm like, no, I wouldn't know that. You fucking just told me.
Would you have been furious? Like, would you have went down there at the time?
First, I would have just been baffled. And then, then I'd be fucking pissed. Like, what the fuck are you doing sending your cock to my fucking girlfriend?
She should have just wrote back, is that a cat? Is that a cat you sent me? This is a weird-looking cat.
It's a fleshy cat.
I've sent a dick pic before.
Of course you have. I was gonna literally say that you would.
Vito,
but not unsolicited. It was with my ex. Used to send each other pics, but I didn't want to take a new picture every time, so I just took 5 pictures that were flattering for myself, and we rotate through those.
Okay, so this is like...
So she has pictures of your dick now?
Yeah, she does.
Is your face in the same picture?
No.
Yeah, he took it from underneath so that he's looking up. No one ever has that kind of a selfie. Dick selfies.
Well, you know, that's such a bad angle for the chin.
Nice gut pic.
It's just dick, gut, multiple chins, face. That would be actually maybe the worst of all time.
I really think that we should go back to developed pictures where you used to have to go in that little booth outside of a supermarket.
Right.
And you weren't going to send them, like, here's a picture of my dick. Don't get offended. I'm sending it to someone I know in the mail.
Just so you know, there's nudes in there. I'm sure they had to deal with it, though, because people can't stand to not do that stuff. There's a technology, and they're like, how can this show us dicks, vaginas, boobs, and the like? Like, how can we view that on this?
Do you know that the thing that has moved every technology forward is porn? Every single one. The fucking videotapes, the DVDs, the internet, any way that you could do it, it's always a sexual thing first. And people, when they're like battling stuff out, get so nervous if porn doesn't pick them, because the chances of you existing without porn as your number one technology are very, very small. Yeah. Very, very small. So if you are doing a startup, please send your stuff to the porn industry right away and say, is this something you could see yourself getting behind?
This is something you can use as a vessel.
Because VR is where it is now. And the number one thing putting money into the VR business is the porn field.
I mean, if you most of the early films, almost immediately were pornographic. Yes. It was the first one was hey, let's do this video, let's film this horse running, and then we can see it in slow motion. That's pretty cool. Oh, and also anal. Let's get that. Let's see what that looks like. Perfect. Great.
There's a silent film, and it's really gorgeous. It's called Ass to Mouth. And there's a piano playing. So this guy, I never know his name. I've seen him on Fox. I always call him the Five.
Eric Bowling.
So he's suspended.
Yeah.
Okay, while they look into it. So no one knows. But he hasn't said. I think he said, I don't recall doing this, which is not the best.
I mean, I've taken dick pics, but did I send them to my coworkers? I can't remember. I get messed up. He also hosts Cashing In. I don't know what that show's about.
I'm sure it's got to do something with the market, because I think he works for Fox Business still.
Yeah.
Or Bennett, and he likes to say Bennett is good.
And then his attorney says these anonymous claims are untrue and terribly unfair.
Well, they may be. They may be. While you're laughing, I know I don't want to say it in front of any Letterman, but there have been Duke fucking cases where we found out that it isn't true. Not everyone is accused. Is it true? John, what's up?
Hey, that whole thing with Eric Bowling is kind of falling apart, because one of the girls that the newspapers are saying made the accusation, she actually came out and said that she never made that accusation. She never got sent a dick pic or nothing.
Well, it's one, and again, I don't know. I have no way of knowing. There's people who look into such things. And Fox, they've had so much trouble there that people just assume. You know what I mean?
They're just we cannot risk this. You guys are sending dicks and grabbing ass, and please stop. Trying to run a network here.
Yeah, but you know what? I mean, that's what built that network for many, many years. You know what I mean? They were like the Mad Men network. Right. And by the way, why did women like Mad Men so much? And then turn around when you actually meet the Mad Men, you're like, oh, I don't like them at all.
They love Mad Men.
Yeah. I guess it's the same way, where you might be a fan of boxing, but you don't necessarily want somebody knocking you out.
Right. Yeah. Don Draper, very sexy. A modern day Don Draper, if I met him, no thank you. Probably not.
He'd be blacked out anyway.
But it's not, by the way, it's not even his real name. I know that from a spoiler. I know that for a fact from a spoiler someone gave me. I don't know what it was about Mad Men. I think I watched the first season or half of the first season, and I stopped.
I loved it. It was one of my favorite TV experiences.
What about you, Chris? Did you stay with it?
I watched it because my ex-girlfriend watched it, so I would watch it. It was okay.
You're really in a nostalgia place today.
Really.
Oh, you miss her?
Odd. No, not at all.
You do miss her.
You're in a healthy, happy relationship right now.
Very happy relationship.
Don't look back.
I thought there were a lot of weak seasons, but I thought the finale was great. But the whole show was Don Draper. When Don Draper wasn't fucking on screen, I didn't like it at all.
There's a lot of shows like that.
Yeah, of course that's probably the best. Things were always focused around him. But I would say there was a bad season, but I would not say many bad seasons over. There was a season that I was like, uh-oh, we've lost it.
Season 5?
So it was like one of the later,
is that the
second to last or third to last.
Longshoremen, the whole season? Or was that The Wire?
Forget ads. I'm married to the sea now. When did Don Draper get back in the office?
Did anyone ever say to him, does the Draper match the Carpenters? Because that would have been my opening line. Oh. I'm stuck in the Karma Police today. Because I saw this thing with Arcade Fire where they did... what were they doing? All right, so they're covering Mind Games, John Lennon, right?
Mm-hmm.
They switched that into Karma Police. They switch it into Oh You Pretty Things, and then into Wake Up, their own song. I had 8 minutes of watching this thing.
Sounds awesome.
It was unbelievable. I'm not going to lie to you. Like, I know that you're not supposed to cheer in front of your own fucking screen. You know what I mean? You should be at the show.
Yeah. Holy shit.
But every one of those songs I love. How about when the Comedy Jam guys opened with that in Montreal?
Oh, yeah, that was the perfect call.
I know. It's so smart. Anyway, the point is this. You just keep moving, right?
Mm-hmm. Don't
you just
stop.
keep moving. You have sadness, you have happiness, and you just keep going. That's what I'm going to do. And in Vito's case, you have dick pics aplenty.
Yeah.
Constant.
Hopefully not floating around.
So you were kind of lying and saying that you were taking them in the moment, is what you're saying.
Yeah, I got caught one time when I sent a screenshot of the picture and it said like 1 of 1,000.
You took 1,000 pictures of your dick before
No.
you picked out one that you liked?
Only 3 good ones you said you had?
Yeah, I wasn't really proud of my picture taking ability.
You know, that's not that bad. That's not that far off of what fashion photographers do, too. I mean,
Yeah.
they take a lot of pictures before they find that perfect shot. And to be honest, a lot of the Vietnam News war journalists did the same thing. They're just like, they said to that little girl, could you run back down the street naked again?
Right.
And scream more, like really be into it. Oh, 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 oh. You just keep moving, right?
Yeah. Don't stop.
You have sad experiences, you have happy experiences. You just have them all. That's what we got to start doing. Sad and happy experiences. Here's a news story, very surprising to me. Lost Boys, 30 years old. The movie Lost Boys, which I think has aged better than a lot of beloved 1980s films.
I would agree. Like for the cult classic type movies, a lot of them, if you rewatch, go, was this really as good? That movie holds up. Still very, very good.
You know, the only movie that ever reminds me of that is Shaun of the Dead, where you're doing a comedy and a genre, like a horror genre at the same time. But it's like, oh, isn't this fun? We're doing a horror movie.
Yeah. And then like that movie I rewatched so many times and like extracted new stuff, which I think is not very common for either one of those genres, either comedy or
give me an example.
horror. Like just rewatching it and then going, oh, I get like how the whole beginning is a mirror of what comes after they become, like once it goes Zombieland.
I think no, it was your Zombieland.
No.
Oh, I thought
I was just calling it.
Oh,
like
but,
a land of zombies.
I don't think I caught on to that.
Yeah, so like all the stuff in Shaun of the Dead, everything that...
No, not Shaun of the Dead, Lost Boys.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Shaun of the Dead is just fucking perfect. But I'm saying you have to be in a very, very small thing to be able to pull that off. It's a very fucking thin runway. And Lost Boys is hilarious. And also just as a gay classic, just as a... But it was really weird to have the two Coreys and not have them be best buddies.
I know. They were kind of like just meeting each other and kind of like, I'm not sure about this Corey. Like
they hadn't made Corey movies before that?
No, I mean in the movie, like they were just not buddies.
Yeah, they they were very at odds.
But yeah, I mean those fucking scenes are so funny. Like they have maintained.
Yeah, and the Rob Lowe fucking poster is the best thing in the world, and other Corys.
Look how sick you are.
What?
I was just in Coney Island this weekend, and I was thinking about the fact that the first time I went there, I was like, it's like a real life Santa Carla. Like that's exactly what it reminded me of. And I remember the first time that I went with my brother, and we were on a ride that isn't there anymore. It's called the break dance. It's like one that like goes like this, and then like there's like the guy in a DJ booth is like playing music as the ride is going, and like he's setting the tone for the mood, and he started playing the soundtrack of the Lost Boys, and we're like, this is fucking perfect.
Tim Capello. Dude, you know, one time I was at a titty bar and saw a girl dance to that fucking Cry Little Sister song.
Oh, that's awesome.
And it was fucking amazing.
That's a perfect pick.
Yeah. The weirdest thing about it is it was the afternoon. We were just like, whoa, this is fucking nuts.
We have gotten twisted here.
Yeah. And I kind of had the feeling like, I wonder if we'll ever make it out of here.
Oh, yeah, that could have turned into a dusk till dawn very quickly.
That sounds like a titty twister.
Oh, you must have been at the titty twister.
That's what I thought the Comedy Jam guys, that's what their fucking club looked like in Montreal. Looked like the titty twister. Pussy.
All right, pussy lovers.
And by the way, this is a bad movie, but it's a great bad movie.
It's such a good bad movie. Maybe the best. Maybe my favorite.
By the way, isn't it weird when children sing in a rock song? It's always bothered me.
Yeah, because it's usually used in this kind of way where it's like a very creepy thing.
Yeah.
It's like a gothy thing to be like, chorus of children comes in. Just says some weird shit.
It's not... You can't think of another way of doing this? I'm going to blame the producer right off the bat. And how was there a whole layer of tomb? That's cheating. It's like a tomb itself. Just either follow the rules or don't, but don't lie about it.
Right. Jim Morrison too. And they're like, hey, you look like that dude. No one ever brings that up. But very subtly superimposes his face. Get it? He looks like Jim Morrison.
All right, let's see if anyone can beat this. Is there a better good bad movie or a bad good movie? No, this would be a good bad movie.
A good bad movie.
A better one. Chris Stanley.
They Live, another 80s kind of horror sci-fi B movie.
Yeah, it is a B movie, but this is an A movie. You know what I mean? Like this got a full... There was no fucking wrestler starring in this.
Yeah.
Right.
This was, we are running an Outsiders with fucking vampires.
Right.
And I think the thing about They Live is it's better than it should have been. You know what I mean? Like, this one, they probably didn't know that they were being ironic or weird.
Right. They were like,
movie.
This is going to be pretty spooky and cool.
These vampires are scared the shit out of everything.
And we're going to have the kids showing up, and they're going to fucking, the kids are going to eat this shit. All right, 844 Rock God, 844 Rock God. I'm going to go to Vito next. You got to be able to beat Lost Boys as a good, bad movie.
I felt like when Bad Boys 2 came out, it was the biggest movie of like my pre-teenness. Everybody talked about it. The soundtrack was huge for everybody. And like rewatching it, it's a really fucking bad movie. Like all the shots are overdone.
Here's why I'm not going to accept yours. Because you can say the same thing about every fucking sequel. What they always did with sequel is just throw more money and add stars to it.
And it'll never have the essence of the first one. So it's like almost like they're automatic bad because they're not giving you what you wanted.
And I'm also going to say this. You're saying it's good through a child's eyes. I think an adult has to look at it and go, this is actually fun.
Right.
Fun. And I'm going to say this. I don't think you can be tongue in cheek about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You can't be self-referential.
And like people who say that Terminator 2 is better than the Terminator are people that just want to see shit blow up. Because Terminator 2, the central part of it doesn't make fucking sense.
Well, I saw Terminator 2 first and then had only seen it for many years. I was like, can't imagine Terminator 1 is better than Terminator 2. And then as an adult saw Terminator 1, I was like, oh, that's like a totally different kind of movie.
It's a real movie, and it's brilliant, and it's on a budget. And like when people put down James Cameron, you got to go back and say, look at this fucking thing.
Right.
I mean, that should have been shot, for fucking $40 million, and he shot it for nothing. Here's Jeff, Cherry Hill. Jeff, what's up? Jeff, we got you, buddy?
Justin?
Okay, Justin. What do you got? I'm just going to move past Dreamscape, 80s movie?
Yes. Max von Sydow, Dennis Quaid.
I do remember this movie, and Dennis Quaid was able to enter people's dreams and help them somehow.
Oh, yeah. I've seen this movie once, and I
Yeah.
totally forgot about it.
And it's the bad guy from, I think, 48 Hours.
Yeah.
I've never seen it.
Yeah, I totally forgot that it exists. It's very surreal and...
I'm going to tell you right off the bat, Jeff, even though you've added very little in terms of, I'm going to send you into the pretty good prize closet.
Oh, nice.
I'm going to send you in to that pretty good prize closet and let you check it out. Dave, what's up, buddy?
What's going on, Ron and Fez? You got to go with Rambo. Horrible, but every time it comes on, I find myself watching. I don't care if it's the middle or the end. It all has a good scene somewhere in there. It's embarrassing.
It's absolutely horrible. It's absolutely ridiculous. And then each one keeps getting worse.
Oh, yeah.
From that point on.
I mean,
But even the first one's terrible.
Yeah, I don't enjoy any Rambo, but I'll tell you, they do get really bad. Like, if you think, like, I didn't really care for Rambo, stick around for 2, 3, and beyond.
Oh, yeah, there's a fourth one where he killed an entire army.
Oh, I never made it.
That was like the one that was like in the early aughts. It came out.
Is that the Afghanistan
so
one?
bad.
No, the Afghanistan one's 3 where he's fighting with the Taliban.
Yeah, great.
He's on their side?
Thank you. Yeah,
I don't remember.
Against Russia. That's when we used to think the Taliban was great because they were fighting Russia. Brian, what's up?
I have 2 for you. Roadhouse and Urban Cowboy. They're both so bad, but I can't turn them off no matter what.
Well, Roadhouse is a world where the bouncer is well known like a rock star. And it is ridiculous and great. Mike is saying the same thing. Mike, you're also a Roadhouse guy?
Yeah, Roadhouse, man. He's like the Zen Buddhist that'll also kick your face off.
We are going to, I'll just say this, we're going to have a star from Roadhouse here today.
Yes.
Which is really, really exciting. Here is Orman. Orman, what's up?
Hey, Ronnie, I know you love this movie, Starship Troopers.
Starship Troopers is, and I have this debate with people occasionally where they're saying the director didn't know that he was being ironic and funny, and I believe that he had to, from the stepping on the bug stuff and all that.
Yeah, I kind of grew into realizing that you would have had to be aware of how bizarre a movie. But when it came out, I definitely would have called this the best bad movie ever. Like, I thought it was not aware of itself, and yet was totally entertaining, and I always wanted to rewatch it.
And not a good actor in the fucking...
No.
Yeah, not a good actor anywhere.
Denise Richards, man.
But and she's not even the worst in the film.
No.
But the CGI way ahead of its time and perfect.
It's still, I watched it recently.
It doesn't look cheesy.
Yeah.
Those bugs are fucking frightening. Driver in Tennessee. What's up?
Hey, how are y'all doing today?
What do you say?
It's an honor to speak with you guys. I was thinking about probably the best worst movie was Big Trouble in Little China with Kurt Russell.
I'm also in this debate with people. I don't even find it slightly fun or watchable. And I love Kurt Russell. Any Big Trouble in Little China fans?
I've never seen it.
Wow.
Yeah,
And I'm
I've seen it, but
surprised.
I would not say it was like one that I put in that cult classic love.
I would go out and shoot the screenwriter if I could. Mark, what's up?
I'm embarrassed. I feel I can't even believe that I'm saying this out loud, but Cocktail with Tom Cruise and I'm just embarrassed. I feel like this is confession.
I actually really like that answer.
I will say this. Now, Cocktail is when people realized that Tom Cruise was a real movie star because the movie was ridiculous and terrible and made a ton of money.
Right.
It made like $80 million on a very small budget, which is like probably making $125 million today. It's absolutely ridiculous. Now, having said that, I saw a Tom Cruise movie and I watched it, I guess, once it got to regular TV, so it's been out forever. But it's the sequel to Jack Reacher.
Oh, there was a sequel to that?
Yes. And I think it's called Never Go Back or something like that. And it is Tom Cruise in a fucking Steven Seagal movie.
Really?
It is as bad as any Steven Seagal movie. And Tom Cruise stars in it. And in the first, he's escaping from a military prison in almost a Baby Driver way.
Sure.
You know, like you have to be doing all these things perfectly, which he's improvising. And I looked at it and I said, Tom, I wish I could just fucking talk to you. I wish I could just sit down and have a fucking conversation.
Does he beat up a bunch of guys in a diner in that movie, like at the beginning of the film?
First of all, he beats up a bunch of guys in a diner in every film. But they're actually laying outside the diner.
All right.
And he's sitting there. He's at the diner eating. They're in the parking lot. And it's a very Steven Seagal moment, and as he's being arrested, he's like that. This is the first scene of the movie. In 90 seconds, that phone's going to ring, and you're going to answer it and find out you're going to be the ones in cuffs. It doesn't make any fucking sense at all.
I thought it was Jack Reacher 1 I was watching.
No, that's Jack Reacher 2. Never stopping. Kate in Philly, how are you?
Hey, yeah, by the way, Jack Reacher's supposed to be 6'4", 250 pounds, and I don't think Tom Cruise is quite that big.
Well, that happens all the time, yeah.
Cobra with Sly Stallone. You guys are talking about Rambo, and in Cobra, I think he catches the bad guy at the end dressing up like a girl.
Yeah, he does.
And the bad guy falls for it, and
by the way,
how he catches him.
That's called pulling a Jim Florentine. And I'll let Jim explain that to yourself. But here's what happened with that, Kate. This is so Beverly Hills Cop was supposed to be Sylvester Stallone. He was going to be the Beverly Hills Cop, and he rewrote the script for them. And the script, they said, "Look, dude, this is supposed to be a fun comedy. We're not doing this." And he goes, "I'm leaving, and I'm taking my script with me." And that script turned out to be Cobra.
Oh, my God.
Just have a night where you watch Beverly Hills Cop and watch Cobra right after it. But this was the days where you wanted to have a catchphrase, and Stallone's catchphrase was, "You're the disease, and I'm the cure." What?
It just doesn't really follow suit with Cobra. Like, maybe have your catchphrase have something snaky about it.
Yeah, that's true.
Otherwise, you're the medicine man.
And he had this unbelievable muscle car while he was driving around, fucking doing police work. And
blended in.
I think he also had a beautiful beach home. I don't know how. I don't know where. I think he's dirty. I think he's a dirty cop.
He'd have to be.
Paul, what's up?
Hey guys, I have two for you.
Yeah.
I have Con Air and The Happening. And when M. Night Shyamalan did an interview after The Happening, he had said that, it meant to be tongue in cheek and a joke, and it's like, no, you fucking didn't, buddy.
Didn't. First of all, you can't even compare the two because one works and the other doesn't.
Yeah,
I mean, let's face it, Con Air works and it's terrible.
Yes,
and it's great.
And I will watch if it is on. I will watch it. I don't care what's going on in the world. I could not say the same about The Happening. I think that I maybe rewatched it once or twice in order to put people through it and watch them watch it and get that experience. But it never by choice and never because was just like, oh yeah, it's a funny, weird movie. Why not watch it? That one like bothered me. It wasn't like I was having fun.
This is even worse. I saw The Happening in a theater.
Oh my God.
And at one point, I literally yelled, "Oh my God," during the fucking thing. I could not believe.
No, here's something I had forgotten about this. But if you remember, there is a scene in The Happening where the tiger in the zoo goes crazy because he gets whatever that weird nature thing is, and he turns on someone and attacks and kills. And it's like, oh my God, this is happening at the zoo right now.
Right, gets killed.
And someone is there with their phone, and they're like, guys, this is happening live right now. And it was so laughable because that was not the way of the world at that time. And now it actually is, which I think is really, I totally had forgotten how cringy that moment, like, oh yeah, you just check your phone and someone's like live streaming someone being attacked by like an animal. That would 100% happen now. Yeah. But at the time it was so weird, and I was thinking people are going to watch that movie and just think it was normal then. But like that was one of the cringy moments where you're like, this would never happen. As well as outrunning wind is not a thing. It's not possible.
Scary wind.
Not Tam writes to us, The Legend of Billie Jean. Unfucking-believably great. Terrible film. Unbelievably great. Glenn in Oregon. Glenn.
Hey, Ronnie B.
Yeah.
My movie will be The Boondock Saints. I love that movie, but man, it's out there.
Well, it's kind of ridiculous, and it also was that post-Tarantino film, and there was a bunch of people who made films very much like... they saw Reservoir Dogs, they saw Pulp. Then you had to say, this has nothing to do with Tarantino. I really wrote this before I saw him, but that was always a lie. And that there's something like, that's just a fun fucking bad movie to watch, Boondock Saints.
Yeah. There's great scenes in it, but like as an overall, I would put like not a
It
good
doesn't make
movie,
any sense whatsoever.
but it's very entertaining.
But also, those two guys in peacoats look fucking great.
Right.
Billy Connolly is amazing in it.
Their buddy Roscoe.
Willem Dafoe was amazing. Roscoe was fucking great.
You look fucking scary.
But we had that whole crew in for the Boondock Saints too. Never Stop Boondocking, and they acted like the Boondock Saints in here. They were just fucking crazy as shit.
Just so you know, it's real.
And there's a unbelievable documentary on the making of Boondock Saints and his band.
Troy Duffy.
Yeah, and what's the name of it? Do you remember?
It's starts with a U. It's like I'll find it.
But it's fucking incredible. It's fucking incredible.
It's fascinating.
And you see how one of the ways that you make it in show business is just being bigger than life and to be okay with people calling you a dick. Kind of, if I'm going to be honest about it, you got to be Trumpian sometimes.
Yeah.
You've got to, toot your own horn. And if anybody says anything about you, you got to fucking go crazy.
Overnight was the documentary.
About being an overnight success.
Yeah.
Hard Rock Johnny wants to jump in this guy, Johnny.
I will have to go with another Stallone movie, Over the Top. Lincoln Hawk. Terribly good.
There is a documentary out now about the guys who made those movies, and these are some of the worst fucking movies of all time, these two Israeli guys. And they were making these small movies, and they would make like 10 of them a year. And then, make money on one or get investors, and they were getting foreign investors. Big J turned me on this documentary. It's just fucking fantastic. But then they decided they wanted to be in the big time, and they took this cheap fucking script that they had, which was a Rocky kind of ripoff, but it was about arm wrestling. And at a time when movie stars were getting $3, $4, maybe even $5 million to do something, they gave him $15 million. Right?
Yeah.
They just said, and Stallone said, I'll do it. I'll go make a bad movie for $15 million. And it's fucking fascinating. He's a truck driver who arm wrestles with a cute kid as his son, as a courtship of Eddie's father type thing. It's unbelievable. But it goes to show you that if you have money, you can get people to do stuff. Like if we had enough money, we could get the Rolling Stones to fucking play in Chris's apartment. They would
just be like, "Oh, the price is right."
Yes, and they would come
the
in and
venue's not great.
they wouldn't mock it out or anything. They go, "Look, he just gave us $25 million. We're going to rock the shit out of this apartment." And I know your money's coming in October. I know it's fucking big.
I don't know.
You told me exactly how much. I've told quite a few people.
Oh no, you weren't supposed to do
There's
that.
a confidentiality.
You shared it with me the other day.
Oh God.
By the way, I didn't sign a confidentiality agreement. And I tell everybody.
You owe no one anything.
Can't talk.
Johnny, talk to you later, buddy. Hope you enjoyed GPS Jersey Shore.
The best as ever.
Yeah, that was a fun one. It was awesome hearing from everybody who enjoyed it. It was a blast.
My favorite song was Jungle Boy out of that whole fucking thing. I had never heard the song before, and that is a real Grease 2 fucking movie.
It's so good.
That's available on demand. That's Jersey.
Jungle Boy?
No, GPS Jersey Shore. Which Jungle Boy is part of?
All right, talk to you later, Johnny.
Peace, Johnny.
Later.
Ron in Georgia.
Orca with Richard Harris.
Not only with Richard Harris, but also Bo Derek. Bo Derek is in Orca, and you get to see her leg fall through the ocean to the bottom. And this was a post Jaws movie.
Right. With no shame.
No shame
Right.
whatsoever. And you go, if you think Jaws is scary, where do you see a fucking killer whale bite through a pretty girl's leg? Brian, what's up?
Yeah, this is Brian, Florida. Okay, you had mentioned the Dreamscape movie before. One of the guys that was the bad dream guy, David Patrick Kelly. He was also in one of my favorite bad movies, which was The Warriors.
Now, I didn't know that was supposed to be bad. I thought that was a documentary of New York in the 1970s.
Yeah, it showed you really what the gangs were like back in the day. You know?
Yes, the gangs / dancers.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to fuck them up.
The first time I ever saw that movie is because we were, me and my friends in high school were out, and this guy came up, and he's like, "Look at the way you all dress," because we all were like, had dyed hair and freaking stupid shit like that. And he's like, "Look at the way you guys are all dressed. You're like the Warriors. Warriors, come out and play. You ever seen that shit? Warriors, come out and play." And we're like, "No, but we're going to tonight." I don't know what that is, but we're going to be watching that tonight. And it was just like instantly our favorite movie. But then afterwards we had to watch and go, "Hey, we're nothing like the Warriors."
You're exactly like the Warriors.
We had almost forgot why we had rented the movie, and then we're like, "Yeah, we know none of us dress like any of the gangs, any of the Warriors."
Well, remember the guys who dressed like the Yankees were the fucking coolest ever.
Baseball fairies?
And then,
Yeah.
And then I was at keg parties for maybe 2 years that somebody would go, "Can you dig it?" That guy was
dig it.
That guy was fucking amazing.
Cyrus?
I grew up in the Baseball Furies zone in my neighborhood, and I was really always excited that I grew up in Fury territory.
Oh, that was your neighborhood?
It's 72nd and Broadway. You see Grace Papaya in the chase scene, and I was like, I'm in Fury territory.
Is there a map of the city? I want to know where all the gangs are from.
I'm sure somebody has done it.
That shit is amazing.
Because they were Coney Island guys, right?
Yeah, they were trying to get back home to Coney Island.
And they had to make it from the Bronx, and they made it seem like it was a 2-day trip.
Right.
You never know what big stars are going to call our program, and this is always exciting. It's the legendary Tom Sharpling.
Tom Sharpling!
Tom, what's up, buddy?
Yeah.
Hey, how are you?
Good.
The Warriors, they were like hoodlums, but I guess they didn't think they could steal a car to just get home.
Yes, they weren't those kind.
No, they're not pieces of shit, Tom.
Grand Theft Auto.
I think the best bad movie of recent memory is John Wick.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, John Wick has to have it.
And everything that I liked about John Wick, I hate it in John Wick 2.
They ruined it.
But the John Wick itself, I kept waiting to laugh at it. And instead, I was getting more and more like, you gotta win this, John Wick.
That Russian John Wick, kill him.
Yeah. It's like an action movie reduced to just a guy shooting people. There's no love interest. They kill his dog, and he kills everyone.
Yes. He kills everyone, and everyone gets cooler and cooler and cooler in their weirdness.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there was the Hotel for Assassins, of course.
The Continental.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nice to see you again here, Mr. Wick.
Yeah. And
I hope you enjoyed
pay
it.
everyone with gold coins.
Yeah. I think they were doubloons. But it really is strange. It should have been absolutely horrible, and yet people will bring up John Wick to you all the time.
It's so good.
Yeah.
Oh, I love it. And Chris is going to be paying people with gold coins.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
When he gets the $31.8 million.
Oh.
Let me dump out of that.
Dude, he
told me.
Yeah.
I did tell you, Sharply.
Yeah. He told everybody, just sue the power company, you'll get this kind of money too. It's easy.
Yeah, $31.8 million.
Wow.
I can't talk about this.
Even more than I thought.
Tom, I hope you come to the party. We're going to do it John Wick style.
Yeah, I can't wait. Gold coins for everyone.
All right, you're the best, buddy. Talk to you soon.
Bye, Tom.
Take care. Bye.
Peace.
Stop spreading rumors.
Oh, you got strong after he left, huh?
I thought he was still on.
You always get a little,
Yeah,
you always
right.
get a little intimidated by him, I notice.
I know.
No, he's.
I guess because he's in the business, he can tell that you can't do your job.
What, is it because he smacks you around a little bit?
When's he smack me around?
Verbally. With his words.
He stuns you.
You don't even know how to react to it.
And you
Talk
do
back to him.
You do love John Wick, too.
Oh, yeah, John Wick's the best. But John Wick 2, I had a bunch
Terrible.
of problems with it. Where everyone in the fucking world is an assassin, and it's a giant commercial for the Natural History Museum.
Oh, stop with the Natural History Museum. That was the dumbest part that you gave me. But I'm blessed that I didn't go to the theater to see that because I was uncomfortable. I mean, I walked out on it, and I was watching it at my house. I still walked out. Let's go to Bruce. Bruce, what's up?
Hey, Ronnie. Thoughts and prayers on Dutch Dalton as well.
Yeah.
Under Siege, which also has Steven Seagal, Tommy Lee Jones, and Gary Busey as a trained Navy SEAL as a cook and saves the world from nuclear detonation.
Yeah, it's terrible. And who's the hot chick in that though? She was so stunning.
Pops out of the cake, right?
Yeah.
She's on Baywatch or something.
Yeah, she was on Baywatch after the fact.
I'll find
Yeah,
out.
it was a great movie. All right. See you later.
There was another really bad movie that she did too. Did you find it?
Erica Eleniak.
All right. There is a movie that she did that she and some other pretty boy are on the run from the Navy or something.
Navy.
Have you seen it?
I haven't seen this.
Look
No.
look early in her career, not yet on the IMDb part.
Chasers.
That's it. It's fucking Chasers. See who else is in the film.
All right. Also, Tom Berenger and William McNamara.
Tom Berenger talks like this through the whole thing.
This looks awesome.
It's fucking. First of all, her body is phenomenal in it, and it's always funny too when you catch somebody in real time. You're like, that might be the most beautiful woman. And then 20 years later, when you say it, you go, yeah, she's cute. But I don't know why at the time you're stunned by her. But put up a picture of the guy because he was a Rob Lowe girl face. What's his name?
Rob McNamara.
Yeah, you might. I think when you see him, you might know him, but the name doesn't pop out for you.
That's not it.
At the time, I thought that Berenger was like in the thing to be in the guy of his generation.
Right.
You know, he had done some, Platoon, which, by the way, if you go back and watch, I feel like Platoon is a good, bad movie now.
Not a legitimate. No.
The thing should not have been built around Charlie Sheen and his voiceover. Dear Grandma. Charlie's. Don't fucking. You're the one who fucking went to Vietnam. Don't bring your grandmother down with it. Can you imagine now a grandma sitting and worried about a little grandbaby in Vietnam?
There's William McNamara.
That's what he looked like in the day.
yeah.
He was a poor man's Tom Cruise.
Yeah, I recognize him now.
I want to see Chasers.
Me too.
It's fucking great. So being on the run from the Navy and the guy, it's well, it's like, remember The Last Detail? It was like a Last Detail ripoff. If instead of just having the one half retarded guy, you had two beautiful models.
Right.
Tim in Brooklyn. Tim.
Yeah, Streets of Fire. Just
hilarious.
Horrific.
Also, maybe the first time I saw Willem Dafoe in a movie, and I remember when I had my kids out in, because I'm saying you're drawing a blank, Gail, but
Yeah.
when we were out in LA, we were at one of the studios, and I'm saying to you and your little brother, this is where they shot that Streets of Fire concert, right under here. And you guys are just looking, like they shoot, it's supposed to be like an inner city, and they shoot the entire movie almost in a fucking 40-foot fucking soundstage. But I'm like, this is it. It was a kind of a rip-off of like a film noir, and then they put that 80s music where they acted like they were being Prince in the
Right.
Revolution, but they weren't.
Sounds good, actually.
All right, who are the stars in this?
All right, it's Michael Paré.
Now, remember when he was the It guy, the It B movie guy?
Yeah,
For a while?
100%.
He made $1 million. He was also Eddie from Eddie and the Cruisers,
Okay.
which is an unbearable bad movie that I've seen 8 times.
Diane Lane.
Diane Lane, the It girl from then to now.
Most
And-
beautiful.
Willem Dafoe.
And Willem Dafoe, I believe, see if you can just put up, you can see how young he looks in this movie. Still fucking scary looking.
I think Rick Moranis was in that
Rick
movie.
Moranis was in it as a bad guy.
Oh shit!
Look at Dafoe, how young he is, how
I
thick his
know.
hair is.
I've seen it, like pictures or like clips of this. I didn't know it was Streets of Fire. This fucking movie sounds great.
Matt, what's up?
Hey guys, how's it going? Gail, how you doing?
Hey, what's up?
Probably one of my favorite movies. I wouldn't say it's bad, but I guess popular opinion would prove otherwise. Hudson Hawk.
Hudson Hawk they made as a fun, light comedy. They wanted it to be like one of those Flynn movies from the 60s. And it was just in time for them to really want to put the boots to Bruce Willis. Like they
Yeah.
felt like he had too much. But you could see that he tried to make a light, fun comedy, and they fucking hated him for it.
I loved it as a kid.
Yeah,
As a
me
kid-
too. I really liked it when I was a kid, and I don't. It's like one of those movies, like for whatever reason, like they hang on to some of those kind of movies, and you'll see them on TV, and like you never hear about that movie again or see it. But for some reason, like as a kid, I was the same way. Like really hung on to it.
Yeah, I don't know why they felt the need. Now, by the way, they beat up Bruce Willis over the weekend too for the Death Wish remake, which they're now calling an alt-right fantasy.
Yeah.
But I was around for the first Death Wish in the 70s, and that was an alt-right fantasy. I mean, the I'm getting revenge is a genre of its own, and I'm killing everybody that had anything to do with this. By the way, that Mel Gibson did a remake of a 60s movie where you get ripped off, so you go back and shoot everybody up the fucking line.
Ransom?
No, not
No, come on,
Ransom.
dude. Fucking be with me halfway. Why would it be Ransom?
Did he mention a
And
little?
by
kid?
the way, this seems like the perfect. It's almost like John Wick. It's John Wick before it happened.
Which fucking? All right, I'm looking it up.
Vito, this seems like it should be one of your favorite movies. But anyway, I'll get to the Death Wish. I saw the trailer. Sway is in the opening of the trailer.
Whoa!
Sway's like, we got to talk about all this going down in New York, in Chicago right now. So basically, well, your professor was in Death Wish.
Yes, she was. My college professor was the raped daughter of Death Wish.
Oh shit!
Yes, so she's the reason for Death Wish.
This was, first of all, this was always the funny thing about Death Wish, because this was in the mid-70s. Nobody thought it was odd, right? You know, like you could be going to the store and get raped.
Right.
It wasn't like, it wasn't a made-up concept. It
Sure.
wasn't, you know. And people thought to themselves, what if I carried a fucking gun? I mean, it ended up happening in New York where a guy shot a bunch of fucking kids and the people of New York were like, well, we're on his side. He was on the subway. Some kids were bothering him, asking him for money, and they had sharp fucking screwdrivers, so he shot them. What's the problem? Oh, one of them, he walked back and shot while he was laying on the ground already paralyzed. Still.
Not
did you find the movie?
Payback.
Yeah,
Who did
that's
it first?
it.
What was the first version? Maybe it was an English film first. But this Death Wish, it takes place in the south side of Chicago. So it really is a middle-aged white guy walking around shooting black thugs. So you're going to take some heat for that.
It was a remake of Point Blank with Lee Marvin.
Man, okay. So when you're remaking Lee Marvin, you're already... And by the way, this is the funny thing about Death Wish. Before he becomes Death Wish, he's already Charles Bronson.
Yeah.
I mean, he's already the motherfucking mechanic.
Right.
He's scary as shit. Little sisters. We need to take a break, don't we?
Yes, we do.
We got, is our friend going to be here? Is it happening?
Oh, that is happening.
Thanks.
Kelly Lynch is going to be here in a few moments.
Nice.
She, of course, was in one of these films that we're talking about, as well as being in some really, really great films. Looking forward to seeing her. New TV series that she's in.
Yes, it's called Mr. Mercedes.
It is based on a Stephen King book that I did not read. But this one isn't, there's no ghost in it.
Yeah.
This is the horror of life.
This is just freaky psycho killer type stuff, and it's very creepy.
The guy who's in the lead part could be Chris Stanley. He's a fucking underachiever, had sex with his own mom. And you said that when you saw that, you felt like you wanted to sue them too.
Right.
Like you did Con Ed.
That's my thing.
But giant fucking stars in this. I love Kelly Lynch. Ann Cusack is great in it. And then I also love Mary Louise Parker, who I would honestly marry.
Yeah, she's so beautiful.
And Brendan Gleeson, who is one of Chris Stanley's favorite actors in the world.
Love Brendan Gleeson. He's the man. He's great in Calvary last year or 2 years ago.
I think it might even be further back than that.
Oh, man.
But I love that he doesn't get rid of his Irish accent. Like, I'm a cop down south. And it's just very, very Irish.
Yeah. And Holland Taylor's in it as well. She's super good in it. She plays his neighbor.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. She's been around for a while and she's great and everything. All right. I wanted to tell you about a friend of mine. And that's Tito Beverage. He and I came up with a great idea, making our own handmade vodka in Austin, Texas. Tito's Handmade Vodka is America's original craft vodka. In 1995, Tito and I had this idea of building our own micro distillery, incorporating the boutique winery concept in the spirits business. Now, here's what he says to me. He goes, all right, I'll come up with a permit, but then how do we raise money? I go, I'm going to put my life savings into it. I'll rack up 19 credit cards, and then you build the copper pots and condensers. He's like, I don't know if this is any good. I took it out to the wine enthusiasts and had it judged. 95.
Wow.
We go to the World Spirits Competition. I'll never forget that day. We won the Judge's Choice double gold medal.
Whoa.
And then we won the Chairman's Trophy for Best Vodka Tonic. And we won a lot of others. Here's the other thing. Tito said to me, he goes, let's get the fanciest bottle we can possibly have.
Yeah.
Okay?
Makes sense.
He said, he goes, we can make a bottle that looks like Texas has landed on the moon.
Cool.
And then have James Dean's body. Right?
Mm.
And I go, nope. I don't want you to do that. I said, simple bottle. He goes, at least let me make a good label. And I remember, because at the time it was heated, I said, modest paper label. And I said, that way all the people pay for is the exceptional handmade vodka inside. And he goes, this is great. He goes, now that we've done it, I want to move on to other things. I said, no. I want you to stay in Austin, Texas, and keep making the vodka by hand. He goes, can I get a new place? I go, no. Same land where it started. Austin, Texas. That, ladies and gentlemen, says a legend was born. A legend was formed thanks to my help.
Ron Bennington and Tito's handmade vodka is distilled 6 times from 100% corn and is naturally gluten-free.
6.
Visit us at titosvodka.com for recipes, songs, and more. 40% alcohol by volume, handcrafted to be savored responsibly.
Bennington Show, Kelly Lynch coming up in just a few moments. We were talking about Death Wish, and Tim Knight wrote to us, Death Wish, Jeff Goldblum is a black guy. Interesting how the left rewrites history and movies. That's got to be the dumbest statement I've ever heard, and you say a lot of them dumb, Tim. First of all, Jeff Goldblum was in that movie as a kid, and I guess you think because he has black friends, he's supposed to be black, but no, he was like the Vito of that. Yeah. And again, Death Wish was pretty much in your neighborhood too, Vito.
Oh, was it Upper West?
Yeah, it was Upper West. You have to see Death Wish in the 70s to see just how fucking scary the Upper West was. Yeah. And what's that? The Riverside Park is where where he did his first shooting, and it was fucking scary as shit. I'm just telling you, in the 70s and even the 80s, New York City was just bone-chillingly frightening.
Yeah. It is really strange if you think about, even now if you're in an outer borough neighborhood and you're like, oh, this is like, maybe this isn't the best neighborhood. It's like, that's what everything was and worse than that. Like, you know, that feeling that you're like, oh, fuck, this is not what the scene that I thought I was getting into. Yeah. It's just like all of Manhattan was like that.
Watch that thing about the birth of hip-hop in the Bronx, how they went from being gangs to fucking hip-hop groups. And the thing that every block would be a different gang in the Bronx for, generations. And then hip-hop fucking saved the Bronx because they're like, we want the other people to be able to safely come into our neighborhood and fucking hear us scratch records, right? Yeah. So that was the big saving grace for the Bronx of, we just don't want to do this music for our 30 friends.
Right.
We want to get 2,000-3,000. And the cops were just letting them plug into any electrical stuff that they wanted. They used to plug right into the streetlights because they're like, this was great. They're not killing each other. They're just playing really bad music and rhyming. Fantastic.
Africa Bambaataa recruited all the guys who were in the roughest gangs and formed the Zulu Nation and got rid of gangs because he wanted a positive place for young black kids in the Bronx to go.
It's all really stunning.
Channel your rage with creativity, guys.
They literally did that. And then they were like, hey, you guys are tagging stuff. That's art. What you're making is art on these trains.
Wait, what are you laying down here, old man?
Let me give you another way that you can express your rage and maybe make a little paper doing it at the same time. Sit down and dig.
This is only delivered by someone who turns their chair backwards.
Now,
that's how you know this guy's pretty cool.
Here's how flipped the world is. So I'm watching CNN today, and they're doing this thing on just Oxycontin overdoses and all that. And they're showing this jail in Ohio that's just packed with white guys. And you're just like, white guys in jail talking about drugs. And the difference is they're like, no, hey, we got to be more understanding. But the guy who runs the jail, this fucking sheriff, his wife became addicted to heroin. That's how crazy this fucking morphine thing has gotten around the country. And again, I'm going to say this, it really does feel good when you take it.
Right.
Sure.
That's probably why it's so popular. How good it feels.
I would love to be the guy who invented some kind of non-addictive drug. Seems like we should be able to do it.
You're going to like it, but you're not going to need it.
Look, if we put a man on Jupiter, I'm pretty sure we can come up with non-addictive drugs. What? I'm 100% sure. And then I can finally get to my other idea that I think is going to be the greatest ever.
What's that?
It's a hot tub the size of an Olympic pool.
What?
Wow.
Oh my God. Why does that not exist? Wait a second.
They say it's a little expensive to heat up. I say no. It's a hot tub. Yeah.
You're doing laps.
Yes, but in a hot tub. Really hot laps.
Sounds great.
Now, my
And
other
healthy.
idea of, and really it was just making chili in a hot tub.
Okay. A lot of these are hot tub related.
A lot of my work is. I'm not going to lie to you.
Relaxing.
Yeah. All my stuff is aimed at relaxation.
Do you just
Smoked
have
butts.
a hot tub and get all your ideas in
Yes.
there? So hot tub, check. But what else?
Hot tub filled with chili. What do you think, guys?
Delicious.
But anyway, I don't know why they don't make one giant hot tub.
I mean, it's brilliant.
And I don't know why when you're 20, getting a hotel room with a hot tub is fantastic. And then by the time you're 30, you're like, that's the grossest thing I've ever heard of.
It's also new when you're 20.
And you're not honestly afraid of germs, I think, when you're 20 or
Oh,
sperm.
yeah. You don't think about it.
Yeah.
Shaped like a champagne glass.
Like,
that's the Poconos, my friend.
Yeah.
That's the Poconos, and that's a champagne glass bed,
Mount Airy
not a
Lodge.
hot tub. Yes.
Isn't Cove Haven? Don't they? They've been known for they have like a little loft where you can.
Kelly
sit.
Lynch is here. Stop talking
Oh
silly.
my God,
Okay.
this is so embarrassing.
Kelly Lynch is here.
Thank God you didn't hear me.
Married to the great Mitch Glazer. Her new show, Chris. Talk about it.
It's Mr. Mercedes. It premieres Wednesday.
Mr. Mercedes.
What is it now?
Mr. Mercedes premieres this Wednesday, August 9th at 6 p.m. on Audience. That's channel 239 on DirecTV.
Let's bring in Kelly Lynch.
Kelly Lynch is in studio. Mr. Mercedes premieres Wednesday, August 9th at 6 p.m. on Audience. That's channel 239 on DirecTV.
Kelly, great to see you again. You look fantastic, by the way.
So nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, great to meet you and so fun to be here. I miss you guys.
We miss you too. Mitch is not going to be on this, but he's right over there right
Mitch
now.
is here in spirit because he's in the room.
Yeah.
Mitch Glazer.
And oddly, I was talking with Steve Jordan not too long ago, and he said that he and Mitch are best friends. And of course, Mitch is also best friends with you.
Yeah.
You know, why not pick the other coolest person in the world? This show, first of all, I can't imagine the star power now that we can get doing a TV show like this.
Well, yeah, everyone really is a film actor that's, on our show. And it's a crazy cast, but that's what happens when it's, Stephen King, David E. Kelley, and Jack Bender, one of the great television directors on the planet. They just put together an amazing group of actors, a great team of designers, and our sets were so cool. It reminded me of Drugstore Cowboy, where we didn't have the money to have sets. So
Right.
it was real places. They created such a beautiful real world for us to work in as well. It was great.
Well, the opening scene, and King wrote this before this kind of stuff started happening, but using a car as a weapon. Now, after what we've seen take place in Europe and Times Square not all that long ago, I imagine that's going to be tough for some people to see.
Yeah, but I think, these are the times we're living in. And Stephen King wrote Mr. Mercedes because there was a job fair. A car killed a bunch of people. It wasn't national news. It was local news. He couldn't believe it didn't become national news, and they never found the person. And he was like, what kind of person would do this? Who is this monster amongst us, And he has this great, supernatural, like series of books and stories, but his monsters within us are always the things that really get me.
Yeah.
Like, who is a Dylan Roof? Who creates a Dylan Roof? Who's Tim McVeigh? Who are these people who just walk amongst us who decide one day to just do something so horrific? And we're so big on, closing our borders and building our walls. And yet the monsters are here. There's some horrible people doing horrible things around the world. And that's for sure. And we got to be careful about who we let into our country. I'm sure all that is valid. But who are these people amongst us, the monsters within us?
Yeah, his work is like that because, he does have that horror movie kind of vibe where, it can be out of the realm of reality. But I think some of his greatest successes are stuff that there's a reason that they end up being so cinematic that actors can really take on these really smart and terrifying characters.
Well, and he writes beautiful human characters as well. I mean, even the monsters are kind of fleshed out, and you believe them, and they're more terrifying because of it. They're people as opposed to iconic, bad, evil guy.
And this is why it's always so difficult to do the quick fix, because these monsters are broken people raised by broken people who were probably raised by broken people. And that's where he goes. And there's times that you feel for him because of the childhood that he had, and then even feel for your character because we can imagine where she came from.
Yeah, exactly. And during the 10 episodes of this first book this year, you'll find out a lot more about Deborah, who she was, where she came from. I can say she was like that cheerleader in high school who everyone thought, oh, she's so sweet and she's so pretty and her life's going to be perfect. And, you kind of love someone like that and hate someone like that because everything seems too easy for them. And then, she is a victim of really bad circumstances and bad luck. And I think in a human life, I think luck plays a bigger part than almost anything.
I certainly think it does with kids. When people say all the time, like, oh, how you have a relationship with your kids, most of it's luck. You know what I mean? They're kind of born the way that they're born, and if you try not to screw up too much.
That's right. Stay out of their way a little bit, right?
Yeah, which everyone forgets. Like, as soon as you don't go like, hey, I want them to play on the... Stop it. Just stop it. Just because your dreams didn't come true. But you try to find out what interests them, and then you kind of act like you're interested. You very rarely are. But you act like you're interested. You're like, oh, ska music. That's great.
Hey. It's not just a phase, Dad. But that's the other thing that's so heartbreaking is that when you think about those things, like most oftentimes, with the exception of certain specific types of monsters, that it's with this, like with good intentions, that people do harmful things to one another.
That's true, too.
Even with love in their heart, which is really scary because that means that you can accidentally hurt children so easily.
Yeah, I think very rarely do people think I'm going to do something evil.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I think Hitler literally was, I give and I give and I give, and it's never enough.
Giver?
It's never enough for these people. Nothing I do, I can't get the appreciation. But I think that is always the difficult. And then the second that we think we can put them in a box, it just makes them even crazier.
Yeah. Well, we're living in crazy times. I mean, I think, social media, I think people, seeing somebody's perfect life on Instagram where there's a glass of rosé in every picture and you're thinking, well, how are you on that boat? And don't you work? Or, it's, there's a lot of comparison. There's a lot of curated lives on social media that seems so amazing. And a lot of people are, looking for work still.
Sure.
And forever, and some of those jobs aren't coming back. I read a statistic that was so chilling that really, of the 100% of jobs that are gone, 80% are gone because of automation, 20% because of offsourcing. So,
right.
So the jobs that we all think went to Mexico or here or there, that's a factor. But that 80% of work is gone, and that in a person's life. For instance, I went to the airport, ordered something on an iPad, and then I realized there were like 200 people in this little restaurant that were being serviced by one girl who was bringing things around to everybody who ordered on the, how many jobs were missing from that one experience. And, so our show starts out with this job fair with these people waiting in line early in the morning. And this horrible thing happens. And, why, why are we, our show examines all sorts of characters who are broken, not just the monster in Brady Hartsfield and his mother, but broken people. I mean, I think the only character in the show, well, maybe two characters. Jarrell Jerome plays a kind of computer savvy IT kid who mows the lawn of Detective Hodges, who's played by Brendan Gleeson. He's trying to discover who Brady Hartsfield is and what's going on and what might happen again in the future. And his next door neighbor, Holland Taylor plays, who's like a widow and lonely, but really pretty cool and pretty funny and pretty intact. In fact, showing, her neighbor, naked selfies of herself, and it's hilarious.
Yeah.
She's so funny in the show. So the two of them are kind of okay, making their way, and the rest of the cast is, and like I say, they're not all monsters, but everyone's struggling in some way or another. So I love the humanity in that. I loved, a show that shows real people, good people, as well as us who are on the darker side of things. Just, in this time in our lives, what's happening with a lot of people.
Well, the American dream was sold to us as a fantasy, not a reality to begin with.
Yeah.
So right from the beginning, this thing that you can be, it certainly didn't mean that you would ever happen to. And other people, I think they forget that success is also a temporary thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can have a run, but it doesn't mean that run is going to stay there. And you have to realize, okay, how am I going to feel about myself when everything I do isn't coming through?
Yeah. Well, it's cyclical lives. And, the people keep talking about how, you're going to have to do, a person who graduates from college is going to have to change jobs like 10, 15 times. It's like crazy. Where you used to get a job, stay in that, building, get the gold watch and retire. I mean, that's not the case. My mother's 82. She still works. And I mean, she doesn't need to work so much.
Right.
I help her out and this and that, but she really wants to work too. That's the other thing. But a lot of people can't work and want to work and aren't finding their way in the world right now.
And also, a lot of these kids come out of college owing so much money.
Oh, that's crazy. I know. I hate this college thing is just ridiculous that we can't find our way to giving people an education in this incredible country of ours.
First of all, I remember when it used to be fairly close to being free when I was younger.
Right.
And then also, nobody was in a hurry to do it. Like, I literally got out of high school and thought, oh, now I can party, I can travel, I don't have to, you know what I mean? And like, you started to age out a little bit and then decided what you wanted to do. But Vito over here, he was 100 G's the second he got out of school.
It's ridiculous.
$100,000.
And also, that was so much a change that happened from, college being like, oh, is that something you would be interested? Are you college material? To like, if you don't do this, you're ruining your life.
Like
you're asking to ruin your life.
It feels like, like how it's big pharma and big oil. It feels like big college. These are for-profit organizations, and they scare kids into thinking, shoot, I wanted to be an actor, and I thought I needed to get, I studied with Sandy Meisner. I didn't have to go to college to find one of the greatest acting teachers. I would have loved to have gone to Yale Rep, and that would have been great. But I felt like I got, and I just started working, and I knew what I wanted to do. And maybe we should examine kids' dreams and skill sets and determine what would be better for them. Not a college degree isn't going to solve everyone's problems, especially when it comes with that price tag.
And part of that is also valuing the careers that don't involve that. It's like you have to put value on the careers that don't need a college education as well. Not villainize them.
But even then, there used to just be jobs. Like, I could go and work somewhere.
There were jobs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I literally would work long enough to make my rent.
Yeah.
Take another 3-4 weeks off, and then worry about working again.
That's so true.
And we did not have to. I mean, my rent was really cheap, and I didn't feel the pressure that these kids feel today to have a career. No one was thinking about a career. You were thinking about making some money,
right,
and hanging out with your friends and living.
And having a life, amongst the whole thing. Yeah.
But is there any other reason to be alive now other than to buy and sell and keep the money moving? It seems like that's the only thing people think about. And I would sit down for 8 hours and listen to music and read the liner notes, and you know what I mean? Like, that was what I was that was what I was educating myself in, was my version of culture. It was always film, it was books.
Right.
There's no way a kid has a time for that today when they're working 2 jobs because they're paying off their college.
Yeah, and spending a lot of time just with your phone.
Yeah.
There's all that.
Well, if you look at NYU, why did all of a sudden NYU start growing out all over the village to where they're not a good neighbor for people in the village because they've changed it so much. Because colleges and hospitals both feel like they have to grow and take over everything.
Well, and getting back to, the weird sort of screens in front of us all the time now. Part of what Brady Hartsfield does to terrorize, the detective who's following him is on social media, and he fools around with contacting this man. He's, and he's like in his 60s. He doesn't know. He can barely, he says to the Gerald Drum's character, I don't even know how to download anything. I don't know what I downloaded. There's something spooky on his computer. It's just that's a scary thing too for us baby boomers. I remember my daughter, she hadn't even had a computer. She sat down and was clickety on it. And I was like, slow down. I want to see what you're doing. And she just looked at me like I was an idiot.
How does that happen though? Like even little kids it makes you feel like there's something that
we're not wired.
Yeah, we're not wired the way they.
You can put an iPad in a child's toy box, and a 2-year-old will like boot it up and start fooling around with it.
Yeah, it's weird too because it's already even changed within one generation. Mm-hmm. It kind of divides young people who they learned it maybe at like middle school, high school age, and college age versus this very youngest generation who never knew anything but that.
Yeah, exactly.
And so even that is like, it seems like there's such a huge gap between the way they are going to interact with technology as adults.
But I think that I see it as something to get the show going, and they think of it as the show. I think that's the difference.
Mm-hmm.
They don't think that you're supposed to put it down. And I'm like, all right, get the show on so I can watch the show. Right. Is this what a TV is now? This little thing?
Yeah.
But here's this is the great thing, and your show falls into this. We wouldn't have had a television show like this 10 years ago.
No. Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't have had this much talent brought together. And now it's on a platform that didn't even exist years ago.
It's so great for great writing, great actors, and, to have fine homes all over the place. Every platform has a thing that they're into, whatever that is. And for us, DirecTV and AT&T, they just got what Stephen King and David E. Kelley wanted to do and thought they weren't afraid of the subject matter. In fact, thought it was, like we all did, it was really timely and it was worth examining.
Mm-hmm.
How are we creating these young people who are so disenfranchised, and in a population of people right now who do feel a little bit like they've been left behind? Everyone's there's not, for the first time in my life, I feel like the ground beneath our feet has really shifted in a really profound way. And we've been through wars and all sorts of crazy stuff, even 9/11. But I feel recently it's just, I think everyone feels a little unsure, and that feeling manifests in different people in different ways. The feeling of being not part of the status quo or part of what's really happening, or the people that are okay and the people who aren't okay. But it's all of us. It's not like us and them. It's within us, this problem. And I don't think we're doing enough to figure this out. I did an interview a while back where someone was saying in England, they've hired all these psychiatrists and psychologists you can call up for free and go and get free mental health care in England right now, which I think is probably good, considering really strange things that are happening over there as well. But how do we make sense of it? Even, if who do you talk to, and in the case of Brady Hartsfield, his mother is a basket case. This boy's probably on the spectrum. He doesn't have any good, relationships with kids at school or, at his job or whatever. Growing up, he's got his mother, and she's a weirdo, and he's a weirdo, and they're in it alone. Mm-hmm. And at this point, my character is agoraphobic, an alcoholic who watches reality TV day and night. And he is her everything. He's her only contact with the outside world. And as far as she can see, he's working 2 jobs and a really good boy, a little odd.
Yeah.
But these aren't people, especially the boy. You would see him walking down the street and you wouldn't go, okay, there's a mass murder.
Yeah, that happens all the time, right?
Yeah.
Where people say, well, he seemed like a nice kid. He was in
Every
scouts
time.
with everybody, you know, and then he snapped. But it isn't a quick snap. It's a long pulling of the rubber band before it snaps.
Yeah, and there's not a safety net for a lot of people.
Well, it's also, you know, if you're thinking about, you're parenting kids now in a world that didn't exist when you were younger. You know what I mean? Like there was thousands of years where you could say to your kid, okay, this is how you hunt. This is how you make clay.
Right. This is what's expected of you.
This is what you do. But now, like if a kid told me, oh, I'm getting bullied online, I would be like, who gives a shit? Turn off your, you know what I mean? Like it doesn't occur to me enough to know how that world even works.
That is a reality for them.
That's a big deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Brady's character has two worlds. He has a world upstairs in his mother's house that he barely lives in. He sleeps there. And then he has a completely different world where he is a mastermind of his universe in his basement with, 10 computers going on at once and all sorts of, he's starting and stopping red and green and yellow lights in his neighborhood. He's doing all sorts of weird things, opening and closing people's garage doors and kind of figuring out how to fool with people's lives, because he's impotent. He feels like he's a nobody and there's nothing he can do that will change that. So he's angry and he's sad and his mother's crazy. And, this is a real human story in a sad way.
And that I'm nobody is that dark side of the American dream that if you somehow aren't a super achiever.
Right, you're nobody.
You're nobody.
You can't just have a family and be a person. You have to be, you have to have 1 million followers on Instagram.
Right.
Or I don't know. What is it? There's a crazy expectation that isn't possible for almost anybody.
Yeah.
And the ones that it is, it's kind of like a weird, again, luck. It's some kind of weird lucky card. And are those people happy? I mean, who's happy? It's a...
I know. From doing this show and meeting so many people from the world of sports or music or film, I don't think they realize how much successful people are living with fear every day anyway, that something could collapse and not work. I'll never forget when I started to know sports stars and they're like, yeah, but this could be over tomorrow. I'm like, you're not enjoying?
Yeah,
the fact that you're a Yankee.
Yeah, it's true.
You're a Yankee. I thought that was the dream.
Yeah,
but no, you're also living with fear, and I don't think we ever tell kids. By the way, you're going to live with a lot of fear and stress. That's what we set you up for.
Exactly.
Right.
I remember Michael Douglas talking about that movie that he did where he freaks out. He's like, I can't remember the name of it. Where he falling down. Yeah, and he said something about that. And that was quite a few years ago now. But he said, we live with fear now, all kinds of fear, fear of, Kim Jong-un going crazy and blowing up California, fear of, another Dylan Roof, fear of ISIS, fear of, who's president, who's not president, fear of each other, fear. Are you cool? Are you not cool? Is your job going to be a machine? There's all these things to be afraid of. All of a sudden, I remember growing up being afraid that Russia was going to bomb us, but not really because they have kids and we have kids and they probably weren't going to do it.
Yeah.
But that was like the one thing you could kind of focus on and go, it's okay. We'll be okay. There wasn't a lot of fear.
Well, we also didn't have cable news on
constantly making you afraid because fear.
The 24-hour.
Yeah. Fear sells more than sex sells, I guess, right? But yeah, we are swimming in fear and constantly looking at our phones and what's happening now and, on Twitter, what to be afraid of, what to be thinking about now.
Well, the government is a reality TV show for us. They are something to watch. And, this person's up, this person's fired, Trump's son, blah, blah, blah.
And it's just as, at this point, anything, it feels like anything could happen with it. Because so many things that have been bizarre or, extraordinary and strange.
That you would have never imagined.
Yeah, and now you start to just be like, well, this is part of
the Truman Show we're living in.
Yeah.
Well, the other day, Michael Moore started saying we should run Tom Hanks on the left. People are going, Tom Hanks. It's interesting idea. He really has
that's not bad.
He's picked a lot of great projects. I mean, the guy has got an eye for talent.
Wait a minute.
Well, this show's terrific, and it's scary, and it's weird, and I'm very, very happy for you.
Yeah, congratulations, because it's such a cool project.
Yeah,
I'm
write down a theme song, which we were talking about, that has got,
Yeah. Well, the music is ridiculously cool. I mean, there's an opening song. I don't want to say it's a Ramones song, but it has something to do with maybe Stephen King.
Yes.
But yeah, there's a lot of cool weird little Easter eggs and some great weird humor in it as well. And the source music is only, say, if someone's got a radio on or there's no score. So, and our showrunner and director have really cool musical taste. So all the way through.
And remember
the show.
when you couldn't get this for TV? You know what I mean? You couldn't get a television show that could match a soundtrack from a Scorsese movie.
Exactly.
And now you can. It's crazy.
It's about time.
Kelly Lynch has been in studio. Mr. Mercedes premieres Wednesday, August 9th at 8 p.m. on Audience, Channel 239 on DirecTV and streaming on DirecTV now.
Kelly, thank you so much.
Thanks so
You're
much.
the best. Mitch Glazer, you come back in here, all right? Come in with Steve Jordan because I want to hear all of your stories. Blues Brothers stuff. All right, we'll be right back. Bennington. Hey, it's the Bennington Show, and we just had Kelly Lynch and Mitch Glazer, her writer, director, producer, husband. So you're like, how can we keep the show going on? You know, we need some big firepower here. We need some major star power. Colin Quinn is here.
Yeah. I consider myself the Kelly Lynch of comedy. Kind of indie, a little bit of a buzz in the early 90s. Still hanging in there. People go, really?
Colin Quinn's still here. Yeah.
I need a Mitch. Thank you.
Yeah.
I need a Mitch Glazer in my life.
You do. Mitch knows everybody there is to know, too. He's one of those guys.
I don't know him.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He knows everybody. Nobody knows him. He's one of those guys.
Yeah. Well, you know, the last time I saw you and I were on our heels doing the Chip Chipperson show.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to respond.
Oh, Jesus. It's such a, juggernaut in many ways. It's a psychological juggernaut, but it's, it's infuriating in many ways and, hilarious in others.
But I am always, do I tell him he's wrong? Do I go with the bit? What is the bit?
Right.
Yeah, I don't really feel like Jim is very generous in his, if I was doing Chip maybe 5 minutes before and say, hey, listen, you're this guy and I'm this guy.
Right.
No. Just, whatever you say, Chip negates it.
Right.
I guess in his mind, that's how it should be.
But I'm always wondering, is the show started? Because only Chip is there.
Right.
You only meet Chip.
There's no Jim. Jim's not in the studio.
All right. But do you get to talk to Jim beforehand?
No.
It's Chip.
It's Chip.
Yeah.
The minute you walk in.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, no, it's really such a part of him.
Yeah.
That, you might want to explore how deeply it really is a part of him.
And then you spend 5 minutes with Chip before the show starts, but he's just telling you how he's nailing chicks and he's cool.
That's pretty cool.
You know what I mean? Like you're not discussing what to do with the show.
Do you feel like you can't ask questions about where things are going?
I've attempted,
and it doesn't work.
No, it doesn't work. Yeah. Just Chip slaps you back down.
Yeah, no, Chip is it's a very, it's the ultimate method character. My hope is that one day he just crosses over and can't find his way back.
That would be the best.
That would be the ultimate justice for that bastard.
Just every once in a while, in the middle of Chip talking to you, you just hear, help me. You know what I mean? I can't get out of here. Dude, Colin, write this up. This might be that indie breakthrough that we're looking for.
Chip Chipperson story?
Yeah, but with Norton trapped inside.
Yeah, we get like, Elijah Wood, maybe?
That's good.
That always works.
He needs a hit.
Yeah.
And he likes that kind of eclectic stuff.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's they're like odd but interesting.
Right.
David Lynchian.
Yeah.
Is where they go with that.
Yeah.
So what has been happening with you, Colin? I mean, you don't have a one-man play going now. So
no, I've been trying to make a one-man play, but it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I'm just doing it as stand-up now because I tried to force it into thematic things, but it's it's all the jokes work. But every time I do the thematic part, I can see people are just kind of like, okay, the jokes, and then the jokes come there. So I said, let me just do stand-up, and maybe it'll come from that way. Maybe I'll reverse the process.
Right. What was the theme that you were looking for?
Systems. The themes I was looking for was systems because, I think about democracy and how it's a flawed system, how every system came with the best of intention to organize people. You know what I mean? Even fascism, it's still trying to control according to certain people, like this is going to work and organize things based on other systems. Yeah. So I had a whole logical flow to it. but then I just threw it out because even though it made sense, and I was like, oh, it makes sense. Like why the Romans followed the Greeks, like what they were trying to prevent, and why the Holy Roman Empire followed Rome. And I was like, oh, it don't make sense to me, but nobody gave a shit.
Well, I saw you do that at the Fat Black Pussycat.
Right, that's what I was trying to work it out.
And it's so funny and so smart.
Thanks, but I'm leaving out the smart part for now.
Okay.
But you said
I'm retiring the smart parts.
But yeah, you said that he was even bringing up Norton. Then you were laughing about the airline stuff.
Yeah, about how he was driving you crazy about asking when he should leave for a flight.
Yeah, no, Norton was. I would get mad because Norton would like, he thinks I'm his smartphone. His smartphone's in front of him, and he's like, "What time should I leave for the airport tomorrow?" That kind of stuff. I do that to. I have stuff about Nick, stuff about Bobby, and one time. I was mad at Bobby for something. I go, I'm such a good friend, and you're so happy that you actually just. And he looks at me, and nothing could have said. I was so mad. And he goes, "That's why you're acting so funny because your friends are pieces of shit." And I just laughed because a lot of my act is about people I know doing certain things.
That is funny though. But when you guys are arguing, we don't know whether you're arguing or riffing. That you guys have been together all for so long.
We don't know either sometimes.
Yeah, and then you find out somebody's feelings are hurt from a roast.
Oh, really? Yeah. Was somebody's feelings hurt from the last roast?
No. Everybody was the Voss roast. Everybody was happy with.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, here's the point to me. It's like I have never been of the school of like, hey, we're comedians. Guess what? Things offend me. Things hurt my feelings. I'm still a human being. Sorry.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean obviously I live by the sword. You die by the sword. I don't feel like I have a right to say you did. But I mean, I'm still pissed off when people cut too close to the quick about me personally, or like something's offensive to me, like a certain type of joke. I'm like, that's offensive. It's not like we're just these people who are like, hey man, it's all art. It's like it is all art, but guess what? I still can be human, and I still have my little touchy feelings.
Yeah, when comics say like we talk this way because we love each other and we don't know another, I'm like, work on that.
Yeah.
Work on expressing, hey dude, I love you. You're great guys. I'm glad that we're friends.
Proud of you.
You don't have to just always make fun of them.
Well, that's where I think I disagree with you.
Yeah.
Nobody wants. You don't think the world has enough empathy and fake false compassion at this time?
Why does it gotta be false?
All right, but even real compassion, where everybody's like, hey, we don't need another one of those moments of like, hey man, I really care about you. Everybody does that. The whole society's done that for 20 years. It's like a cultural thing. I think you need people to like, when I was growing up, my friend used to do this thing that we would all do when we were all hanging out. And he just reminded me of it a few years ago. Harry O'Reilly's actually a very funny guy. But where we would say something like, I gotta be drunk, we're hanging out, and we go, I really feel bad about breaking up with my girlfriend, and your friend would go like this. You can't see it on the radio, unfortunately. He goes, and I think you need more of that in society sometimes.
Well, the other night, there was a 10-year-old kid who's battling back from cancer, and he was at the Jet scrimmage, and he ran for a touchdown, and 10 years old. And I have inside sources right now telling me that that it's cheating, that the defense did not try to tackle him, and the offense knew it was going to happen. So this story is breaking now, but remember you heard it here. But that thing when the first guys did that, it was the sweetest thing ever. You know what I mean? When they let a kid score. And now everyone has to do it, even at high school games. And you're like, you want everybody to see you as a nice person rather than being a nice person.
Right. Yeah. That's a big part of it, too. And like I said, sincerity, there's a lot of sincerity, a lot of false sincerity that goes on in the world because it's cheap to go on and just utter platitudes and bromides and,
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's good that stand-up's supposed to be kind of like, all right, I'm full of shit and you're full of shit. I don't like stand-up that just says you're full of shit. I like it when you say, I'm full of shit.
I'm full of shit, too.
You're full of shit,
Yeah. But the difference between you, and now I'm going to give you some kind of respect that maybe doesn't make you uncomfortable,
it won't
is that we see you struggling to change and kind of grow all the time in your stand-up.
Yeah, stand-up, of course I'm trying.
But you're trying, but what about off?
Well, I mean, it's just a natural product of whatever pain, you know what I mean? When you have to confront, like my worst nightmare was having to confront myself in my life. Like, that's not what my plan was.
Right.
My plan, when I was a young kid, was to live like, you ever see In Like Flint?
Yes.
My plan was to be like this guy in like Flint. Ladies, before your time. But
Yeah.
he was James Coburn or somebody. And he was just living on yachts, like smoking, drinking, partying, girls. And like, I was like, that'd be a great life. You know, I remember being a little kid going, that's the life I want. But then, you know, you end up, you know, I mean, I quit drinking before I came into stand-up. And just by the act of quitting drinking, I've had, and staying that way,
Right.
I've had to confront a lot of ugly truths about myself. And, you know, I never, like I said, it wasn't really what I was intending at all. I didn't want that. You know, that's not what I want. It's not what show business is supposed to be.
No,
that's what it is.
That's not fun at all. But
No.
here's the worst thing I think about quitting drinking, because when I gave up drinking and drugs, I thought those were the problems. I'm like, I'm a really great guy, but I drink too much and I take drugs.
Me too.
So when that was, so when I got off that, and I go, okay, I guess that's a symptom that
That's right.
But I'm really a bad, selfish, fucking person.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh, this really, I could use a drink right now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's what it is. And you either go two ways. Either you become rigid and just go, okay, and just clench your jaw, or you say, okay, I got to obviously confront all these flaws in my personality and really look at it, you know, and the more you look at it, at least the more I look at my stuff, just the more like I'm like, oh my God.
Yeah, disgusting.
The levels of subtle ego, the levels of subtle selfishness. You know, it's very, you know.
Well, that's when you find yourself, you're having a conversation with people. You go, well, what I'm trying to explain to you is I'm not a good friend. You've picked someone. Maybe this is a character flaw for you. You've picked a terrible person.
I'm not going to give you what you need.
To depend on. I'm incapable. I'm incapable.
But it's not that you're incapable.
Yeah.
It's just that.
No, you're right.
I wish I was incapable.
Yes, that would be
Because that's a
great.
cop out.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, man, that's what I used to be like. Hey, I can't be in a relationship. But then you're like, no, I choose not to be.
I choose not
because
to
of my own, you know,
Yeah.
and that's another level. You know?
Yeah, I would rather watch TV than be here for you.
Right.
But isn't that terrible?
Yeah.
But it is true.
Well, it's very, I mean, but it's kind of, dealing with that is good. I mean, it's good in artistically too. Not to bring it once again back to a selfish motive, but it does help you. Like, you don't want to I just don't want to, like, on my deathbed, be like, oh shit, I missed. I mean, you're going to miss whatever you're going to miss anyway, in the big picture. But I don't want to be like, I missed that whole point of myself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You try to find, but I think I'm willing to examine everything else in life more than myself. It's like the last thing on my list I ever want to get to.
And then, and there's the other problem is examining yourself to the point where that's a narcissistic activity too.
Yeah.
And suddenly all you're doing is thinking, hey, I had a fascinating thought. And meanwhile, you know, some like old lady's falling down and you're like, excuse me for a second. I just was thinking of something. You're just stepping over her body, and, you know, that kind of stuff too.
You know, I think even people I know who got interested in therapy and like went to school for it were also people who like probably could have been examined themselves, but
only
it's
damaged people becomes therapists.
Why
only.
is that?
Well, because it's an interest right from the beginning.
Right.
Like, how does this work?
Yeah.
But also I feel like therapists are like prison guards in the sense that they absorb so much negativity and evil in the world they live in. Like, they have to deal with everybody coming in with all day the narcissism and just the anger and the trauma, that it's sort of like can't help but affect you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't imagine, like you say, prison guard, that you come home from work and you're like, honey, how's work? Well, one guy wouldn't stop screaming and he was just gashing at himself with a glass. So yeah, it was a bad day.
I saw 2 rapes. I saw 3 assaults. I mean, I mean, how could it not affect you? You know, I mean, how could you not absorb some of that?
Right.
And if it doesn't, then you're a sociopath. Like, if you're the kind of person who picked that job because those things don't affect you.
You're like, just a typical day. It's boring. You don't want to hear about it. Yeah.
But a sociopath, they say you can't be like a CEO of a company without being a sociopath. That you got to be able to say, I'm going to lay off 1,000 people so that me and 3 other guys get bonuses. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, that's success.
Right. Yeah. No, I could see that being true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, even anyone who's truly driven, they're kind of nuts. Like somebody, even if it's like a creative field or whatever, if they're like, I am the best at that thing.
Right.
That's why I need to keep pushing for that thing. And you're like, oh, you're crazy. All you think about is
to be good
this
at
one.
anything. You have to miss out on a lot.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
You can't be part of a lot of life.
Right, that's true.
Like-
but then, what is a lot of life? Then a lot of other people are like, hey, guess what? A lot of life is, is the stuff, is just the basic stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like whenever somebody says miss out on a lot of life, all I think about is a jet ski or, it's like, that's not what life is. It's not a vacation. I always think, oh, you're missing out on a camping trip or something. Not that I would ever want to go camping, but I'm just saying. It's always a leisure activity.
Yeah.
It's always me pulling a boat in my station wagon away from some suburban house.
This is it. This is what we work for.
Come on, kids.
We're going to Cape Hatteras. Like some people love a place that you've never been to and they bring it up all the time. You're like, why is that your spot?
Yeah.
Why are you constantly going to that place? But travel, everyone makes a big deal about. But when you travel, do you go and see the towns that you're in, or you just worry about your day?
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it depends how long I'm there, but I mean, I don't know, like if I like to walk around just because I'm from New York, so I'm always like, walk. But in most cities, you can't walk. So then, like, I went to Columbus, Ohio, a couple of months ago, and I went to Ohio State.
Yeah,
I just went there to visit it. Plus, my ex-girlfriend a long time ago went to Ohio State, so I was looking back, like, and then I was like. And I went to Ohio State, but just then it becomes just this creepy guy on the campus of Ohio State by himself, with no motive. And it's like basically walking up to people, going, "Where are the freshman dorms?" Like you have to modify your behavior when you're alone.
But it is true too that a lot of the towns you travel to are going to end up being university towns too, right? Because just theaters. Like I saw you were down in Austin.
Yeah,
you were there. It seems like if there's going to be a theater, there's going to be a school.
Well, but I mean, this was a comedy club.
Yeah,
this was the Funny Bone, Columbus Funny Bone. So I mean, but a lot of theaters. It's so funny. They have these beautiful theaters, but sometimes the school doesn't. Like if you do a college gig, for example,
right.
A lot of people hate college gigs because for a lot of reasons. But one of the reasons when I used to do them back in the in the early '90s was because they always put you in the gym, and I was like, why don't you put us in these beautiful theaters?
Right.
But they don't own the school.
Right.
I forget what it was, but it was some weird rule. So you end up in a horrible gym or a cafeteria doing stand up instead of in a beautiful theater. There was
Yeah.
I know that doesn't answer your question whatsoever.
It does.
It just changes the subject to something that bothered me in 1991. I finally got it off my chest.
Well, that's done.
The contract law involved with most universities, they really do have one flaw. And I think people should look into it.
Politicians are afraid to step into this.
Yeah.
It's such a dicey spot.
They're like, what? It takes them like 2 hours. Like, they start thinking about something else.
Yeah.
Like, well, explain to me again what his complaint was. Why? It's the theater. So the school don't know they own the theater. Oh, all right.
You brought up Nick DiPaolo, and you and him.
I did?
Yes, earlier.
I did?
Yeah.
What did I say?
I just wanted to get off of theater contract.
Listen to me.
Major universities.
Yeah, go ahead, Nick DiPaolo.
No, I was just saying that you, like, from the outside, it wouldn't seem like you guys have a lot in common.
Right. But we're we're old friends here.
You're old friends. What kind of brought you guys together?
I mean, in the 90s, it was actually, we became close in LA. We were both living like 2 doors away from each other, and we're both trying to work on our acts. We had the same manager, so we'd go to this place at night and just start riffing back and forth, and just the references were so fun. I mean, he's just, he's got that stroke of, he's the only guy I've ever seen. This was in like 2002. We did a Guantanamo Bay thing for, the troops. And then, it was me, him, Patrice, like 12 people, and, cynical comedians. And he's the only comedian I've ever seen that literally had, even guys like Patrice, who they don't want to give it up and they don't laugh out loud. He had people in a van, like 12 people, but doubled over for days.
Yeah.
Because he speaks in punchlines. It's just the way he is, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he's an amazingly funny guy.
Yeah. He goes, he's the only guy on his radio show now. Like, he's trying to build a thing. Guy calls him Nick, you're the greatest, I love you so much. And then makes a little, like, witty joke. Nick. He's like, yeah. Hey, save it for open mic night, okay? Click. Hey, listen, when you call up, don't try to do your 5 minutes stand up for me. Just say what you want to say and move along. I'll be funny, okay? Relax. He can't stop himself.
Yeah. That is so funny. But that's the thing that you forget when you move into this job. You're supposed to be warm, like, oh, I want to spend time with that person every day. Not fear him or be afraid to call the show.
Yeah. And this was like his first couple of weeks. So the guy's like, Nick, I love your show. It's thank you. And there's just a little joke at the end. Hey, just turns immediately.
But when you were putting together Tough Crowd, he was like high on your list, right? He was.
Yes. Yeah. Well, him and Patrice, these guys all brought certain things. What Nick, I'll say, what Norton brought was like brutal honesty, just bare naked honesty. What Nick and Patrice brought was no outward charm, just telling you that they're funny, and they're bringing no warm, no way like, hey, I like this guy, I want to laugh at him. They're just going, no, this is. You're laughing at me because I'm funny, because I'm not bringing that. You know what I mean? Yeah. And both of them, by the way, horribly offended when I used to tell them that.
Right.
Like, I was like, what do you guys think? You like Charm City? You know what I mean? And Patrice actually had a little bit of shit. Nick, forget. But they were both these brutal, just warriors, just couldn't help but be like people had to laugh even though they wanted to hate him. You know what I mean? And
yeah, but that was by the way, Nick's last special that he did was so damn funny, and most of it you could see that was just written in his living room chair because it was stuff he saw on TV, sporting events, commercials, infomercials, the news, and I'm just like, his wife has to sit and just hear him yelling from the other room.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but that was the funny thing, and I remember when I brought you in to do that show, I went back and watched a lot of Tough Crowd, and it was hard for me to believe that there was a time that this show was on the air. It was so brutal and fast,
yeah, and even then it was considered a little offensive to most people in power. The average person kind of seemed to enjoy it, but a lot of people a lot of important people didn't seem to appreciate it. As we found out.
Yeah. Did you try to smooth it over in any way? I mean, was there even a?
No, I don't know what my problem was. I mean, I wasn't very politically savvy. I was just like, in the long run, the honesty and that kind of stuff just kind of bleeds through. This is comedy. People say they want real. And it's so funny because I was just thinking about this in the shower the other day. God knows why, and I was like, I remember reading an article that really stuck out to me before I even got in show business. It was Jack Nicholson, and they go, do you have any regrets? And it was like, he's the rebel of show business, like 1981 or something. They were already asking him to, and he goes, my only regret is being really honest in all my interviews, because people don't want honesty. And I was honest, and that was that's the only thing I would take back.
Yeah.
I was like, what a strange thing to say. But in a way with Tough Crowd, there would have been a way to do it and still not, you know what I mean? And still be a little more savvy, about what happens, but, it is what it is. I mean, look, I certainly wouldn't have changed it, and like I said, I would have been, if I told I remember dealing with Comedy Central at one point, they go, look, we don't want you talking about politics anymore because, this show deals with politics, Jon Stewart, and we don't want you talking about race because Chappelle deals with race. I go, first of all, you only need one show to deal with politics and race. I go, but second of all, what do you want me to talk about? They go, well, like pop culture. I go, so you want me to walk in tomorrow, see Nick DiPaolo scowling over there, Patrice O'Neill, the imperious, whatever, the reigning king of whatever he thought he was reigning king of, Shirley, all these people, and go, hey guys, let's talk about what's going on with, the Kardashians, whoever it was.
Yeah, right.
This was before the Kardashians, but whoever it was at that time. I mean, it was very strange. So it was brutal sometimes. Like there was things in it. Like I said, there's things in it that offend me. Too bad. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, right.
If you're trying to be real and funny and off the top of your head, which a lot of the show was supposed to be spontaneous, to see how funny people are off the top of your head. That was another subplot of it. Right.
I love those type of personalities too. You're like, let's talk about something that isn't overdone. Pop culture. There's something that people don't discuss. I'm like,
no one gets mad at you if you don't like a Kardashian or if you do.
Paris
but if you say, I like Donald Trump or I don't like Donald Trump, half the fucking audience is furious.
Yeah.
Not like curious of why you do or, you know what I mean? They're just angry.
Well,
with
yeah,
you.
no, now it's 10 times worse, of course. But I mean, but even then, it was just started then where people were just very contentious and very divided, you know?
Yeah. Well, the kind of the end of the Clinton years, we said, okay, the Democrats and Republicans aren't ever going to be friends again.
That's right.
And we haven't since. We have not had a thing where people could sit down and say, you know, well, we want America to do well.
No, it's terrible. I mean, a two-party system sucks anyway. I mean, really, I mean, it's a ridiculous thing. But I mean, it's really strange how strident and how rigid people really are. I mean, if you vacillate from the viewpoint of one thing, whatever your party supposedly, whoever belongs to the party is insane anyway. But if you vacillate from any point that people like, well, see, that's where, and it's like, what? So you're telling me, coincidentally, all of you people agree on 50 points. What an amazing, how could that be?
Well, that's what's
really weird.
The funny thing is like, if you talk to people who are right wing and then you bring up abortion, they'll go like, I don't give a fuck about abortion. Go ahead.
Right.
Yeah.
But they won't, no one says that.
New York Republicans.
But a lot, and there's a lot of Democrats who are like, I got a fucking gun. What do I give a shit?
Right.
I'm going to probably shoot somebody. If I get the opportunity, if they come into my house, I'll shoot them.
Yes.
You know?
But this country's finished. I mean, that's what, when Gail saw the show, I'm talking about the Civil War, and I mean, this country's definitely going to break up. I can't imagine, there's no other way. It's not going to stay this way.
It does not feel as if the United States is staying together, or,
That's right.
or whether it's the best thing. This is like one of those things that you hear about in a marriage where you know it's going to be better for the young people.
Exactly.
Exactly. Yeah. And you still, let's suppose you, let's just say Texas or California breaks off. We're not going to hate them. They're not going to become our enemy, but we're just not going to have to live with them every day.
They don't have to stay together for the kids.
I really think, to me, I think we should even invest money to see if Texas can do it on their own, because that's the one state. They already have a government. They've been a country before. I think they could pull it off.
Right.
And then again, you want to share an army or whatever? We can do that, but it can't be every fucking thing that we all have to agree on.
Right. But it won't be one state. It'll be like sections.
So you think like New England will break off on their own? Because some of these sections they can't make it.
Like who?
I'm going to say the Mid-South. They're never going to have the kind of money it takes to be a country. I don't want to fucking say anything about Mississippi.
But you'd be surprised when you throw somebody, on their own, you throw them in the water, they learn how to swim.
So you think they're going to make it? Like if Florida broke off, Florida would make it.
Sure they would. Florida would.
Because Nicaragua exists. Right? Okay.
You're not
going to
be like a great country.
Just to stop, Mississippi could be like a great, because of the Gulf, and they could be like a great transshipment point.
Okay. Why aren't they now?
For
we
drugs,
stopping them?
For drugs and, no, I'm talking about illegal.
Yeah, illegal drugs.
Because once you're off on your own, you're like, hey, guess what? We got to survive.
Right.
And they're like, we don't have to. And everybody's like, well, what about the laws? They're like, the laws of the country we're no longer part of? Yeah, all right.
All right.
It's nice
Our new
you.
law is we ship,
Yeah.
Look how rich. How rich is the Cayman Islands,
Yeah.
I always wonder if the Cayman Islands, how rich they are. Because everybody uses them, but I feel like they're not rich down there.
Well, you don't meet anybody with that background, like a Cayman Island.
Cayman, yeah.
I'm a Cayman. Jen, you're a Trinidadian, right?
Yes. Yeah. Well, my dad grew up in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and my mom's family's from Trinidad.
Okay. But you don't know anybody from the Cayman. Your dad doesn't go to school with somebody that used to be in the Caymans.
No, I don't know anyone.
Yeah, it's a good point.
Yeah.
And they make a lot of money running bank things because they're saying, we don't give a fuck where your money comes from. We'll help you launder it.
What, the Caymans? Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of it's literally what you said that Mississippi could turn around and do, is come up with something, even if it's, football gambling, whatever. You can end up making a lot of fucking money.
Yeah. You got to find something that just suits your whole state ecologically and psychologically.
Well, let's take a look at the United States. If it breaks up, how many countries do you think it'll be?
Well, I mean, I've been trying to talk about this in my show, but I would say, you start out with like an SEC, a Big Ten.
That would be great.
You know what I mean? You break it up into football divisions, college football divisions, and then from there, I would say there's probably like 12. Well, here's the problem: is a lot of red state. Like you take Austin, Texas.
Yeah,
it's a blue city in a red state.
Yeah.
So now, what are you going to do with that?
Almost every when we say red states and blue states, it is city people and country people.
Yeah.
Like Dallas votes blue. You know what I mean?
Right.
Houston is blue.
You told me that. I never thought that was true. I didn't realize that Dallas was that
the
way.
biggest city that voted for Donald Trump is Mesa, California. No, Mesa, Arizona. Mesa, Arizona. And that's not a very large city.
But even within, here's why I don't feel like even this could work, this plan. Because every election, every 4 years, is 49-51, basically.
Right.
So that's a problem. And that's not just all. So even if he wins every big city, he doesn't sweep every big city.
Right.
There's still a 30-40%
Yeah, you're right. There's still plenty of the people.
This can only end with a purifying bloodshed.
Yes. But is there a happy country? Is it just like
no?
I mean, like we always were like, oh, they're happy in Denmark, but I don't know.
But Denmark's it's like a half a state. It means nothing.
Yeah, it's like saying they're happy in Delaware.
Exactly. No, there's no such thing. It's been bloodshed since day one.
Right.
I was watching this documentary called Game of Thrones, and but that show is kind of interesting in that the point, which by the way I started watching because they had some deeper point. Not that deep, but it's beautiful. But I mean, but basically, it's like there's always been war, and it's just like people just fight. It's really amazing,
Well, we're at the age now that you can start and go, oh, life is much shorter than I thought it was going to be when you're in your 20s. But we've never caught on to, hey, the dumbest thing you can do is get in a gunfight when you're young and lose the 3 or 4 decades that you might have after that. That, by the way, isn't all that great anyway. You know?
That's a good point.
And we just
2 good points.
We will never get it through our minds that there's no who gives a fuck.
Yeah.
What happens?
Well, there's no way for young people to have that perspective ever.
Yeah.
Like they're just still living for that.
Yeah, when you're 19. I mean, I literally, my girlfriend, when I was 19, I would have, Mike Tyson wasn't even around there, but if she had said, this guy's really harassing me, I would have gone right up to Mike Tyson and said, hey, she told you, leave her alone.
Yeah, right.
And I would have gotten beaten to death. But I'm saying, I would have had no qualms about doing that.
Right.
Like when you're 19, your emotions are dirt. You know what I mean? So people, fuck with you. You're like, that's it. Let's go.
Yeah, and then you're also like, you're not like physically afraid of ruining your life, but also like, I don't know. I feel like you don't feel shame or embarrassment, like all that kind of stuff where you're like, oh my God, people will look at me like I'm an idiot.
Right.
That none of that happens.
That's when you take the pride of like, I'm like the idiot of our gang. I'm like the nut. I will shit in a bucket and put it on my head.
Right.
Like I got that going for me. Yeah. That's my brand right
That's
now.
how everyone knows me. It's pretty cool.
I don't know if we can fix it then, Colin. I don't know if anything can be fixed.
But nobody's ever fixed it.
There was no time in the world where we're like, this is the good times. Like the golden age of Pericles. Not that good.
No. I mean, there was still a lot of, a lot of wars and a lot of slaves and a lot of everything, what I mean? Somebody's got to, I always quote that line because I loved it. This guy, Jack Simmons, he was a comedian. Yeah. Still around somewhere. But he used to do a joke about something years ago, and the whole crowd moaned. He goes, come on, folks, it's comedy. Somebody's got to get hurt. And that's so true about comedy, but it's true about the world. Somebody's got to pay the price.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's been.
Well, that's the thing now, too. In this country, it's based on how well you do. And I think that's why we have Trump, is people do think about winning and losing. And we were sold that as a young thing. But it does mean to have capitalism, somebody's going to be in the dark bottom, just like somebody's going to be in the highest point.
But that's communism too.
Yeah,
and socialism. I mean, there's no system that's worked where that hasn't happened.
Right.
There's human nature, so you know what I mean.
There's always going to be in human nature that guy isn't doing shit. I'm not giving him, no matter what we agreed to.
Right.
You're not doing shit, and there's no such thing of everyone act like we're all going to do well, and then some people are like, I don't really care that much about it. You know.
Right. That's right.
And then we just change what that position is, like if it's race or a caste system or whatever. Like it depends on the circumstance, but there will always be the person who are like, we want it to be fair for everyone, but these guys not so much.
Yeah,
I remember even being in Little League that you would say to some of the kids, "Would you fuck it? We're trying to win here.
Right.
And they would be like, I don't care. The whole thing is dumb. I'm like, I know it's dumb. I know it's dumb, but I want to win this.
I know, they don't care. Yeah. In some ways, they're healthier people.
Yes,
like,
they
hey, I'm
are.
out here playing a game. I'm playing fun, play a game.
Right.
And then you're like, no, we're going to win. Yeah.
But I remember in the movie North Dallas 40, and I never fucking forget this, a great football movie. And, Nick Nolte's partying and he's enjoying life. And because he knows it's stupid to be a football player. But the coach said to him, seeing through the game and winning the game are two different things, right? And it is true. Like, if you really just want to act like I'm just going to enjoy life, you're not going to have a name of your name on the top of a building the way Trump does.
Right.
Trump just sees everything in numbers and winning. We have to win. And that's why he got to where he is. He's obsessed with it,
Yeah.
The American dream is almost an obsession. But, Chris, you don't do plugs anymore? It's like...
Colin Quinn's in studio. Go to colinquinn.com for all Colin's dates and on Twitter.
Oh, brother.
I am Colin Quinn.
What a depressing promo I have.
Yeah, it was.
You know your career's on the downswing when they're promoting your website. Colin Quinn, like nobody would figure, hey, I wonder if this guy has a colinquinn.com. I'm really finished in this business. I did nothing to deserve it, in my opinion, but I'm sure all people feel that way about themselves.
We're doing...
This guy's sitting in jail from serial murder going, I did nothing to allow... I don't know how this happened. This is ridiculous.
Yeah. No one's ever like, well, they deserve to catch me.
Well,
I got to wait for I had a good
No,
one.
actually, there were a couple of guys that go, you caught me, believe me. It's the best thing ever. Even Ted Bundy, I think, was like, you should kill me. He's like,
There was Son of Sam is 40 years right now, this summer, right? And he said, when they picked him up, he goes, what took you so long?
Right.
One of the great lines, like, I'm not that good at this.
Yeah.
Just when they showed up.
Yeah, when they showed up, he goes, what took you so long?
Yeah, they should have said, hey, guess what? You come in one crime every 2 months.
Yeah.
In a giant city. One was in Queens, one's in Brooklyn, two's in the Bronx. Sorry.
They got caught on their heels. They didn't know
there's
what to say.
You know, there's a crime wave in New York in the 70s. Sorry we didn't, catch you, stupid.
But that goes to show
that
you.
parking ticket. It was a good one.
It was like, wasn't just his MO brown hair?
Yes.
It's like, that's pretty,
brown hair.
So that's vague.
Kind of chunky.
Well, actually, they did sort of have because a friend of mine who looked a little in that similar look, they stopped him.
Right.
So by the end, they knew the certain look. They knew it was curly brown hair. My friend looked like him. They stopped him.
But even with all the crime that was happening in the 70s, the people got quiet during that and stayed in because that's a scarier kind of shark in the water.
Yes.
Like, you can understand, like, somebody wants dope or they want money. But somebody who just wants to go around and shoot people
that are making out in cars.
Yeah. Even then, that was crazy. Even then, people went, this is nuts.
I knew a couple of, one girl I knew the sister, one of the girls that got killed. And then another guy who had a plate in his head. We worked with my cousin for a while. And they actually,
So a city this big, and you had two connections.
Yeah, to Son of Sam.
Yeah.
And remember, there was big rumors. He's going out to the Hamptons. That was the big rumor. Right before I caught him. Because the Hamptons, those days, everybody used to swing. Hey, let's go to the Hamptons weekend. That was like the Hamptons was just becoming like a thing.
Right, yeah. It was like Mick Jagger's out there. I'm going out to the Hamptons.
Right. And there was all the bridge and tunnel people they detested coming out on the weekends. Hey, 6 people to a house. I'm like, Son of Sam.
We wanted to talk to you because we're doing a special on one of the guys from your show, Tough Crowd, and that's Greg Giraldo, who was great comic. And part of this is about just keeping some of that work thought about by people.
Yeah, that's great. It's great. Actually, a guy's writing a book about him. I'm reading it right now, and I'm supposed to do the forward, which means I was supposed to do the forward like a month and a half ago. I got busy. But anyway, so I mean, Greg was the guy. Greg was sort of like the nicest hybrid of what Tough Crowd was. You know what I mean? In the ideal sense, in that he was so funny, but he was informed, but he tried to see, like, he was kind of like, he could go either way. Like, you couldn't tell what his political leaning was because he would just go back and forth all the time, like a normal human being would if our society was not just this, back in red and blue Republican. He was kind of like, he'd go in and out each day,
But he was educated, but also a street guy. Right?
Yeah, so he grew up poor in Queens. I think his father's like he was a Colombian immigrant. I think he was like a busboy or something. He worked in a restaurant. And then Greg was like he got into Regis High School, which is this elite Catholic high school in New York that, you have to get these great grades. It's like the Harvard of Catholic schools. And then he got into Columbia. I mean, he got into Harvard itself and then Columbia Law School. So he was like a brilliant guy, yeah. And what was it that he fulfilled for you on that show? What did he bring that you didn't have without him? He brought like that the fact that he was always prepared. You know what I mean? He actually had the big famous fight with Dennis Leary because Dennis Leary was accusing him of being prepared. But that was Greg. He went to, you don't go to Regis, Harvard, and Columbia by going, I'll wing it when I get in the test today, And he always brought the middle. I don't want to say the middle ground because it sounds like it's not funny in the middle, but he would be ironically, kind of cynically, attacking both sides and whatever he said. So he'd be saying something, he'd be mocking what he was talking about, but then it would be an almost sarcastic undertones. He was making fun of everything, That piece with him and Leary was so funny to me because you saw how quickly it went from being a comedy show to two guys on the corner. Yes. Like it literally came close to being physical. Yeah, no, it looked like a fight. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, man, because, and Leary takes a lot of grief for that one. And I'm not denying the grief he takes. I'm just saying that the one thing that nobody realizes is that we were reshooting. It even says in the show, glad we reshot this. And afterwards I go, I'll cut that if you want. He goes, no, leave it. It's good TV. Yeah. So at least Leary left it up. And it was good TV. And Leary was I think that people would side with Greg because he was the underdog. That's right. They were both like, a dog looking in the mirror. I mean, you could see that those guys are cut from the same cloth. Yeah, exactly. They were both fuming mad. And I think it was that Dennis, I don't think Dennis understood what Greg, like I said, Greg was being sarcastic. And Dennis didn't realize so whatever he said about North Korea, I forget what the line was. And then Leary's like, oh, yeah, right. And then Greg's like, yeah, you didn't get it. I was being sorry. And then it was just ugly. Yeah. And he'd stepped on him, you know what I mean? Like, Jordan was going, somebody stepped on him. And that was the whole thing. But that tough crowd had that all the time, right? I mean, that was always on the outline that this thing could become less than fun. Sure. I mean, a lot of times it was ugly, Yeah. But that was the whole point. I was trying to make it like, oh, everybody likes real. Like, I wanted to keep it authentic, whatever. You know what I mean? Like, I was trying not to make it so that, like, people would try to write jokes, but only, like, they get the topics like an hour early. So a lot of it was improv, and I wanted it to be, like, authentic, so it's not always laughs, or it's not always going to be laughs. Sometimes it got serious, I was trying to make it, like, moment in the moment. Well, one of the things I think people thought when they watched that show is that you guys were all friends together and moved in a pack, but a lot of those people were just people that you admired and brought together. Right? Yes, yeah. I mean, there were a lot of people that knew each other because the cellar was the main thing, but a lot of people came in, and it wasn't always fair to people coming in because they're like, Jesus, I got to walk into these people who know each other, like, each other's rhythms. So, but I mean, it was, yeah, I mean, it was a noble attempt. Let's put it that way. Well, to bring up this thing about keeping Greg's content alive a little bit, why do you think that is with comedy, where people won't forget the Doors, but take any comedians from that era and they're more or less forgotten today? Well, I never thought about that until you phrased it that way, and now I'm in kind of a minor depression. The Doors are eternal, and yet all of us are going to be just dust in the wind, and people don't forget in Kansas. But I mean, I think it's because a lot of it's of its time. Yeah, stand up it's the same thing. I mean, another one of those things where it's like you go on the road, nobody's like, "Hey, do that bit you did." Yeah, very rarely. For the most part, you have to write new stuff, which I've always resented because right up there with my college theater cafeteria gym thing, my number 2 resentment is that you have to write new material, and bands get to play like 5 hits, you're set for life. 5 hits. You don't play them, they get mad. Yeah. If you have 5 hits, you will never need another thing again. Yes. I mean, most bands that you think of, you're like, oh, I like them. You probably can't make more than 5 songs. That's right. You open with open with that one. Yeah. Then you do a couple of ones of your new shitty album. Then people started to get a little restless. You bring back another one that was kind of a hit. You're like, all right, good.
Have you seen this I'm Dying Up Here TV show?
I saw the pilots.
Yeah. There is
I saw 2 of them, I think.
Yeah. There's a tonality that's kind of missed there because I think people were working dirtier in 73 than they should have been. I think people started working a little more comfortably dirty in 77, 78, something like that.
Yeah.
When 73, you were looking at David Brenner's career or something like that.
Right.
And again, here's a comedian. People have no idea how massive David Brenner was in the 70s.
Right.
Massive. On more TV shows than any actor.
Yeah.
But that kind of gets forgotten.
Yeah, I was wondering that when I had seen the pilot because I couldn't. It's not a time period and a subject matter that gets covered a lot.
Right.
But I was like, there seems to be something tonally off, and I couldn't quite place it. And maybe that's what it was, that the comedy maybe wasn't that on the edge. There were a few people on the fringe who were,
and that's why they were. People were like, how does Carlin, in 73, they're like, how does he get to talk that way? By 78, 80, everybody knew how to talk that way.
Right.
And they forgot that, that Pryor and Carlin, they know he's great, but they didn't realize that they were able to do this at a time.
Yeah.
So I get into some of the stuff about comedy sometimes because it's so funny how quickly it gets picked up. Again, the first time Louis C.K. said that his kid was an asshole or whatever, I remember even being offended, like, oh, he's going to regret that when the kid grows up. Within 3 years, you would see people on chat shows or like a news anchor goes, my kid's a jerk.
Right.
Now that's a cute thing to say.
Yeah.
But I remember the first time he said, I go, why would he bring his kid into this?
Right.
That's dangerous.
She's going to resent him.
Yeah, the kid's going to hate him and probably end up an oxyhead.
Right.
But as soon as anything is broken, it is, it would be hard for anyone to understand seeing, let's say, Sam Kinison in 83 and being shocked by it, or seeing Dice the first time Dice came out and being like, what is this? Because so quickly it's just accepted and done by everybody.
Yes. Well, Sam Kinison especially was known for that. Like, it wasn't just this primal; it was the primal scream.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so funny because it was like a nonverbal, it was a non-articulate, but he was just kind of letting out this scream that everybody was like, I do feel that way in the middle of the pleasant 80s.
Yeah.
And people were like, hey. And then suddenly this guy's like, bah! And you laughed because of the way he looked too.
Yeah.
You're like, this guy's allowed to scream and he's allowed to hate women. And scream about his exes because look at him.
Right.
He hasn't had an easy road. If he'd been like this handsome guy, you'd be like, who's this? He's just an asshole. But it's like, look at him,
I always thought like the funniest stuff with him is anytime he like pulls it back. Like he goes from the scream and then like the delivery. He's like, sand. Yeah, this is sand. Like anytime he got gentle was always my favorite thing.
Because you knew it was coming. Okay. All right. Fine. Like even in Back to School, and he goes, he says that, Vietnam. Anybody else? That seems to be common wisdom. I don't agree with that because I was there.
Slugging it out with Charlie.
Right.
But even
it was funny.
when Sam did that thing about, hey, why didn't the cameraman give him a sandwich? Well, first of all, it's funny because you're saying sandwich out of all the food.
Right.
But second, it was like, yes, are you like any kind of news photographer? You're taking pictures while Jack Kennedy's head's being blown off. It doesn't. What kind of fucking sociopath are you?
Right.
Yeah, especially the ones that involve children. Like, think about the amount of like famous historical photographs. There's just like a kid dying.
Kid falling.
What were you doing?
Yeah. Dropping from a building. You couldn't drop the camera and try to catch him.
Right. And it was so lovable because he'd start doing that person going, oh, help me. Like you just cut to the pain of it all.
And then, like we said, within a couple of years, so many other comics had added that.
Yeah.
That it just distills comedy immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
And same with Dice. Dice was doing the,
Dice, I'll never forget him telling me that but he worked on himself from the outside in. Every comedian thinks I need jokes. And Dice says I need to look good and make the audience look at me and respect me. And that blew my mind.
Yeah. I just feel like he had it was such a great character and he was so funny. I just feel like he never, like, like it didn't get as ironic as it was. Like I feel like the irony was so thick.
Right.
I wasn't sure all the time that he understood to play that.
Yeah.
Like I remember the classic, one of these, this is like the epitome of that character. He goes, I'm behind this girl hammering away. And she goes, what you hurry? You got a bus to catch? No, you do. And like, because then he's sort of making fun of himself too. Like, I mean, I guess it's not a great, but I'm just saying in retrospect. But I always thought it could have lasted a lot longer if he'd been more.
Yeah.
Like so, because it was like I don't know how you describe that character. It was like it was so broad.
What happened to Dice? I think immediately his audience got nuts, and they got massive, and people were like, "What is this? Hitler Youth?" You know what I mean?
No,
like,
the same.
away.
By the way, the same thing happened to Kennison.
Yeah.
I knew Kennison decently back then, and I would go to these gigs. We were doing this MTV stuff in Daytona, and the crowd got in the way of his creativity too.
Right.
Because they would be like, "Whoa, Sam!"
Yeah.
We'd be like, "Whoa!" And like suddenly he couldn't do all those little subtle nuance things that you liked.
Yeah.
Because they were like, "Wah!" screaming in the middle of him.
Right.
So it took him out of his game too.
Yeah,
and it's
that's
the
true.
same thing with Dice. It got so big that it takes them out of their game where they're like trying to play, instead of going, wait a minute, this is not how it works. You know what I mean? But it's hard to do, especially then. Nobody's used to selling out stadium. You know what I mean? So
yeah, immediately it becomes, and that's why, like Steve Martin just said, I just stopped because I didn't.
Yeah.
That wasn't my point. You know, he did 2 tours and made the money. But then he goes, I don't know how to drive this anymore.
Right.
Instead of thinking, how can I make fun of everybody for liking me? Probably is what he said then.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it has to have an element to that.
Yeah.
And people are like, hey, wait a minute.
Colin, thanks so much for stopping by, man. You are
So
literally
great.
the best, buddy.
That was fast as hell.
Yes. Well, it was 6 minutes. So it might not have been as fast as you thought. Thanks to
guys.
Kelly Lynch for being here, too. The name of that new TV show?
Mr. Mercedes. That's on DirecTV, 8 p.m. on
that should be big.
Channel 239 this Wednesday.
And then Colin's
What's her
website?
ColinQuinn.com.
Kelly, go to KellyLynch.com. I'll be in Mr. Mercedes.
All right, that's it for us. See you again in 1974.
Ladies and gentlemen, the evening is over. We hope you all enjoyed yourselves, and we'll see you all again in 1974. Good evening!